Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the NERDWatch Podcast. I, of course, am G-Money here on another lovely Wednesday evening right here in the heart of Wailuku Town on the beautiful island of Maui in the great state of Hawaii. And we are back. This is the it's a brand new year. It's a brand new NERDWatch. And I tell you what, first NERDWatch episode back from the new year. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. Oscar season is around the corner. Matter of fact, the Hawaii Film Critics Society last week produced a podcast that you guys can take advantage of for what we consider the best films of the year so far for 2021. So that is something you can check out. It's a special broadcast podcast that you guys can check out. That's on the Facebooks and on the Apple iTunes and the whatnots and the wherefores. So make sure you guys check that out. Finally, let's get right to it, shall we? Got a lot of stuff to talk about, but first, let me introduce the crew. He is the producer, seducer. Not sure what he did for Christmas, but I'm sure that he was seducing Mrs. Claus under the mistletoe. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody say hello to Kai Kai.
Do you not read the chats about the 2 raccoon thing that was happening?
Oh, that's right. You were experimenting with 2 raccoons. 2 raccoons and 1 Kai, I think is what you called it. It's pretty sweet.
I don't know about the 1 Kai thing, but honestly, you should read half the chat that we say.
All right. I'll check it out. I'm afraid to. Whenever you're chatting, I'm afraid to read it. Also, joining us this evening, ladies and gentlemen, he is our Dark Knight. He is our horror aficionado. He is our punk rock superstar, and he fights crime all over Maui County with a cape, a cowl, and a utility belt full of prophylactics. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Prophylactics.
Listen, you can ask him when he comes on. Ladies and gentlemen, please show some reverence, show some love for the man that we call Gannon. How's it going, Gannon? Come in over. Gannon, come in over. He's not here. See? I gave him a tremendous introduction.
I am here.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Frickin' hell.
To answer your question, Kai, it's a dinosaur.
Oh.
Not sure what. I'm not sure what the hell you guys are talking about. But
I don't know what you talk about.
You're talking about prophylactic.
Oh, prophylactic. That's right. I'm sorry I even brought it up. And I could have swore, I don't know if I did. Did I send I could have swore I sent our good friend Phormat an invite. I could have swore I did. I could be wrong.
You're a terrible friend.
And well, that
You're usually wrong.
We all yeah, we know, we already know that, right? I mean, I'm a terrible friend.
You're a terrible friend. You're a terrible person. You're a terrible host.
Without a doubt. Hey, listen, I'm a mediocre host. All right, give me that.
You're a terrible Spider-Man cosplayer.
That is true. That's true.
I mean, he can dress up as Spider-Pig, and he probably will pull it off.
I could.
Wow.
I can do whatever.
You went straight for shaming him.
I know. I can do whatever Spider-Pig does. That's what I can do.
Oh, man. I try to keep it a possibility.
Before we start rolling here, ladies and gentlemen, last but certainly not least, ladies and gentlemen.
Last and especially least.
He is our comic book artist extraordinaire. He is the creator of Disco Thunder Groove Bone, Mohawk Thunder, and his perennial work, The Kukui Project, now on issue 13 and working on 11. Got one more to go. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the Hawaiian Salted Superman. It's Todd Bernardi.
He is all the way over there.
Kai, it's not Spider Pig, it's Spider Ham.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Is it Spider Ham? I think I like Spider Pig.
You can be Spider Pig.
Spider
Pig is from The Simpsons.
Yeah. I know. I like Spider Pig better than Spider Ham. I'm not gonna lie. So why the hell are you all the way over
You
there?
would.
Could you bring your stuff over here so we can hear you better?
You can't hear me?
It's hard.
we
You sound a
can.
little echoey.
Oh.
Yeah. Why don't you bring your drawing stuff over here so we can see you? You know?
You can see me fine.
All right. Well, so then we can hear you. Ding dong.
You know what else is echoey?
What's that?
You know what else is echoey?
God, what?
Hawkeye.
Shut up. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2022, January 5th. Now, something I didn't have a chance to talk about. The show may be moving days. So I'm gonna
Fridays?
I'll let you guys know that either stays on Wednesdays or until further notice, it might move to Monday nights.
Oh, fuck all this then.
Whoa! Watch your language. All right, watch your mouth. All right, so we got to talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about it, but we're not moving it yet. But we will talk about it. We'll let everybody know on the Nerd Watches and things like that. We will let you know as soon as we know and as soon as we work everything out. Of course, you can follow us on our Instagrams and our Twitters and our Twitches and our YouTubes and Facebooks.
We should share our chats when we have that discussion. That'll probably be a lot of fun.
Facebook.com/the NerdWatch, YouTube at NerdWatch Nation, of course at Twitch at NerdWatch 808, NerdWatch 808 as well, and then of course you guys.
On Twitch.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
You're so stupid. Check us out.
You want to guess what she was really good at?
ASMR.
Isn't that a band name?
No. Girls on Twitch are pretty good at ASMR.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, we need to show Gannon this after.
We need to show Gannon some ASMR then.
Is that a sex move?
Kai, go ahead and pull that up. Maybe we can.
Is it anything like a Texas chili bowl?
Wait, which one? We pull up the Amaranth one?
It does. Yeah. Go ahead and pull that up. It does involve a horse. Anyway, we can pull it up. It's safe. It's safe for the Nerd Watch. It's safe for Facebook. We're not going to get pulled or anything.
Oh, that's not good at all.
Yeah, but anyway, listen, boys and girls, make sure that you guys subscribe to all the places that I talked about: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all at the bottom there on the ticker tape. Or don't. Whatever floats your proverbial boat. Now we are back. We're back because we're going to talk about. By the way, how was everybody's Christmas season and New Year? Everybody have a decent Christmas and New Year? Todd?
Yeah, it was great. Can you hear me now, Greg? I'm projecting to the back row.
There you go. Would you mind just bringing the mic just a tad closer to you? Is that possible?
There is no microphone. It's attached to the computer.
Oh my gosh! I thought that you had a microphone, you bastard. Anyway, okay.
I broke the cable.
You're so stupid.
Sounds like a Bernardi move.
Yeah, it does sound like a straight up Bernardi move. What did you get for
the cable?
What did you get for Christmas, Todd?
I got a Nintendo Switch.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Nice.
Wow. I didn't know you were a gamer.
I'm not. I haven't had a gaming system since the Wii.
Wow. Now, why were you given a Switch? Just if you're not a gamer, I'm shocked.
Just stopped him from making his comic book.
I've been asking Nadia to get a cabinet, like a full size arcade cabinet for the studio, and so she was like, "Oh, I'll get you a Switch, so that you'll stop asking for the Galaga arcade cabinet."
Oh,
now,
those are expensive. They're getting more expensive.
To get a little technical, did you get a regular Switch, a Switch Lite, or like an OLED Switch? Which one did you get?
I got just regular Switch.
Regular Switch. Okay. Just ask.
Okay.
What games did you get?
Mario Kart Deluxe.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Good game. What was that? It?
That's all I need. I mean, I'm like a Super Mario World, Super Nintendo kind of guy. So I've been playing like retro games. I downloaded Galaga to the Switch. I've been playing Galaga, Super Mario World, which I've almost beaten. And And Mario Kart. That's it.
Well, Todd, I would recommend that you purchase Mario Odyssey. Okay, Super Mario Odyssey. Best Mario game I've ever played. And
I read about it. I read reviews about it. I heard it was really good.
It's very good. It's excellent. Well, I'm so glad you got what you wanted for Christmas, Todd. It's very good. Gannon, what about you?
Games.
Gannon, what else? What did you get for Christmas, or what did you do for Christmas?
You got a Texas Chili Bowl.
I swear, Gannon pumps. He comes in and out of the chat or the
I got 3
every day.
Texas chili bowls.
Nice, nice. What was
You know what
what
Texas chili bowl is, Greg?
Number one? It sounds delicious.
I encourage everyone that's actually listening right now to go to Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, I'm sorry, Urban Dictionary, and look up a Texas chili bowl.
Don't listen to Gannon. Do not go to
I'm
Urban.
looking this up now.
Don't look it up.
Do it right now too.
God, you guys are dumb. Anyway, I think one of the best gifts we got this year was, of course, Cobra Kai Season 4. Best New Year's gift we got was that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We can't spoil too much because someone on the show tonight did not see the series.
They all died at the end.
2 seasons? Oh my gosh.
They all died at the end. There's nothing to spoil.
All right, that's true. That's a good point.
Why did stuff?
All right. Well, anyway, other than that, of course, I want you guys to know that you guys can always join us in the chat, just like Joel and Doc. Just join us in the chat. You have any questions, comments, put them in there. We're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff here since we're back in 2022. And of course, every single Wednesday is New Comic Book Wednesday in the heart of Wailuku Town and Maui Comics and Collectibles and all over the world. So you know what I'm going to do? Let's find out what's new this week in the world of the comic books for 2022. Now, shut up, Kai. I'm going to mute you, Kai.
There's a whole lot of different definitions of a Texas chili bowl.
All right, listen.
But the truth is, no one really knows.
All right, listen. All of you shut up. We're gonna do some
telephone, Tabasco sauce, and somebody's anus.
All right. All right.
Or anus, as the Italians say.
All right, let's get into some comics, shall we? Brand new comics for this week. Batman 119 from DC Comics. Batman versus Abyss. Also from DC Comics, Detective Comics 1047. Detective Comics 1047 is out. It's The Tower Part 1, House of Gotham Chapter 1. Very interesting cover. It's from the Shadow of the Bat series, I guess. It's a detective comic. Also from Marvel Comics, The Amazing Spider-Man number 84 is out today as well. Spider-Man number 84. That's out today. Also out today from Marvel, Thor number 20. Thor number 20 is out today as well. Also out today, X-Men number 6. Whatever Happened to Captain Krakoa is out today. X-Men number 6.
Was it Captain named Krakoa?
It's pronounced Krakoa.
Krakoa. That's what I said. Krakoa. That's what I said. Also out from DC Comics, it's Krakoa. That's what I said. Dark Knights of Steel number 3. Krakoa.
Crackhead.
That's what I said. Also from Dark Knights of Steel number 3. Also out, Inferno number 4 from Marvel Comics. Also from DC Comics, Superman, Son of Kal-El. Is that the? Is
Here,
that
wait, I gotta stop you right there. You right there.
Wow.
I'm naked right now. But go aahead.
Wow. Okay.
Wait, you're not the only one then.
All right. Superman, Son of Kal-El. I think this is his bisexual son, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Okay. By the way, speaking of Superman. When does the issue come out where Superman gets sexually violated in prison? Anyone know when that's coming out?
Todd.
Oh, that's actually comics number 1. That came out a long time ago.
Oh, did it? Oh, Well, I only learned about it this week, and I'm a little disappointed in DC, and I'm very sad.
You ever see the movie Lock Up?
With Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah, it's just like that, but a lot sexier.
Wow. All right.
They help build a car together.
The fact that Superman would allow that to happen, and any writer that believes that, it drives me nuts. Todd?
I didn't write it, Greg.
Well, tell you what, Todd.
I think he's
going to get a Texas chili bowl, though.
Stop pushing your agenda on everyone. Anyway, also opening up today.
I gotta stop you again.
What?
I feel like the way you write the titling when you do this section, since you insist on doing this comic books thing, instead of doing all those O's, just do a U with the umlaut thing over it.
Oh, okay. I'll change it for next time. Also out today, from Image Comics, Spawn 325 is out today as well. Spawn number 325. Also from Image Comics, Noctera Blacktop Bill Special number 1 is out today. Todd, do you have Do you have any insight on Noctera?
I don't. I think I have the first one, but I didn't read it.
Got it.
No, nobody's reading that book. That was the book that Scott Snyder kickstarted, even though he has no business kickstartering a book.
Wow. Also,
arguably, neither should Keanu Reeves, but you know.
Speaking of something no one's reading, Marvel Comics Captain Marvel number 35 is out today.
How do you know that?
Is there a lady lead in it? Then no one's reading it. Also opening up today, Marvel Comics Black Widow number 13 is out today.
Is no one reading that too?
I don't think anybody's reading that either. It's called
just like no one's watching this show.
That's right. Pretty close. Also opening up today from DC Comics, Suicide Squad number 11 versus Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Excuse me. I take that back.
They fight the Avengers?
Excuse me. Earth 8's Mightiest Heroes. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's
bad.
dumb.
Yeah, that's dumb. Okay. I saw what I see.
I
what
wanted
they
to see
did
Harley
there.
Quinn fight Thor.
Yeah, I fell for that. Also from Marvel Comics, Star Wars Dr. Aphra number 17. From DC, Justice League Incarnate number 3. Also from DC Comics, Arkham City, The Order of the World number 4. Also from Skybound, The Walking Dead Deluxe number 30 is out today. If you're also interested, DC Comics, The Joker Presents a Puzzle Box number 6. Also from Marvel Comics, The Marvels number 7. Maybe you guys can shed a little light on a couple of these. Marvel Comics has a new comic called Darkhold Omega number 1. What is that? Anyone know?
It's kind of like a Texas chili bowl. Nobody really knows what it is.
Todd, if you're not going to contribute any kind of knowledge to the show, shut up.
He is contributing great knowledge right now.
Is he? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Also today, Wastelanders Doom number 1.
Let me answer your question. Darkhold is if you were to put Wesley Snipes in a headlock.
What?
Is it Dark Hole or Dark Hold?
Dark Hold with a D. Dark Hold with a D.
I'll give you a Dark Hold with a D.
Also, Wastelanders Doom number 1. It looks like Victor Von Doom's on the front cover of that one. It looks kind of cool, actually. It is written by Tarun Grönbeck. Never heard of her.
It's probably
Grunbeck. Yeah, I'm sorry. Forgive me for my mispronunciation.
It's okay. We know you're remarkably uncultured.
Very, very uncultured. From Boom Studios, Buffy the Vampire Slayer number 33. Also from DC Comics, Crush and Lobo number 8 is out today.
That's a fun book.
Is it?
Lobo has a daughter.
Oh, wow. Crush and Lobo.
She's kind of a badass. Guess which one's his daughter?
So he's not the last Cisnarian?
Not anymore.
Wow.
They last Jedi Lobo.
Oh, did they?
Oh, great.
Wow.
Well, now a girl would be the last Zarnian.
Ugh, man, that sucks.
I know you hate it, Greg, but it's okay.
All right, I hate it.
People like you will be left in the dust in the next 10, 15 years, so it's okay.
Also today, from DC Comics, One Star Squadron number 2 is out today. Also from DC Comics, one of our personal favorites, mine and Kai's, DC Horror presents Soul Plumber #4 out today. That's very cool. Also from Image Comics, Todd can probably give us a little insight on these. The Magic Order 2 #3 is out today, and Ordinary Gods #6 is out today as well. Do you know anything about those, Todd?
No.
I'm so glad I'm coming back to you with this. Okay.
I still think it's funny you're the one reading off the comic book list. The one guy that definitely doesn't read comics is the one giving us all the information.
I read comics. I read comics.
So why do you keep asking us what we think of them?
Well, let's ask the guy who's in chat.
Because the guy who's the creator. Who's supposed to be
Alika. He's in chat.
Oh, Alika's in chat.
He doesn't read them either.
Yeah, that's what I mean. What the hell? And Phormat.
But to be honest, a good pusher never does his own product.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Also from Image Comics, Two Moons #8. Listen, Todd, here's what I want you to do. If you hear a title in here that you know about, chime right in. Okay, chime right in. Also from Image Comics.
Wait. Hold on. If he hears something he likes, take off your shirt.
Take it off slowly.
Todd, here's one from Image Comics, your favorite publisher, Monkey Meat #1 is out today, Todd.
What does that mean?
What do you think is in the chili for Texas chili?
Kai. Look up monkey meat in the Urban Dictionary real quick.
Okay, let me tell you what this is.
There's no way it's not in there in some kind of way.
Writer, artist, and cover artist Junie Ba introduces a new fantasy universe in this anthology series. The Monkey Meat Company made its fortune selling cans of processed meat all around the world. Using that money to fuel their wacky experiments, they turned their native island into a magical hyper-capitalist hellscape where even demons have to pay rent. Follow the lives of the creatures of Monkey Meat Island in this fun, action-packed romp. Each issue is its own story.
That's that sounds like, it sounds like Hawaii.
Oh, no, I'm going to get this book, but I want to know what Kai's laughing about right now.
I have no idea, and I don't want to know.
Tell us.
Hurry up, Kai. Tell us.
Okay, to penetrate a female anus.
Hey, do not tell us. Stop it. Do not. Shut up, Kai.
Okay, fine.
I shouldn't have said anything. I'm such an idiot. Why would I even say that?
Clearly, you offended him, Kai. Change it to a male's anus.
I was not. Kai, do not read anything from the Urban Dictionary on this show, or I will mute you. Anyway. Also, today from Image Comics, Frontiersman #4. Frontiersman #4. Also from Image Comics, Night Hawes Nightmare Blog #3 is out today as well. From Dynamite, Red Sonja #5 out today as well. Also, I guess something that I was not aware of, Marvel Comics is writing comics for Warhammer 40,000. Sisters of Battle #5 is out today.
Man, that stuff is for nerds.
Yep. IDW Star Trek The Mirror War #3 is out today as well. Now,
people that play at Warhammer 4000 make me feel like the Fonz.
Wow. Well, you tell that to Henry Cavill. Bad Idea Comics. Odin's Eye #4 is out today. So from Bad Idea Comics, Odin's Eye #4 is out today. Also from Image Comics, Hell Cop #3 is out today.
Wait, they're up to 3. I didn't even get issue 1. Did Alika not order up on those? Man, I want to get that. I got to pay more attention in previews.
Yep. Also out today from Image Comics, A Thing Called Truth #3 is out today as well. Also out today, this may interest you, Gannon. Elvira Meets Vincent Price #4 is out today.
Oh yeah, I'm sub to that, and if I'm not there when Alika pulls them, they almost end up on the shelf, which is awesome.
From Aftershock Comics, Bylines in Blood #1 is out today. Also from Image Comics, one that I've never heard of, Girl Scout Stone Ghost #2, GRRL.
Jim Mahfood's book.
Yeah.
Jim Mahfood's book. Yeah.
Yeah. Stone Ghost number 2.
I don't know if you know who Tim Mahfood is.
Of course I do.
I actually met him in Seattle.
You're such a
very graffiti style kind of artwork.
Also from Boom Studios, Buckhead number 2. Buckhead number 2.
You're a Buckhead.
Are you sure it's not Buckethead?
No, it says Buckhead.
Are you sure it's not Buckhead?
Okay, listen.
Are you sure it's not Buckhead with an F?
No. No, it says Buckhead number 2. It's written by Shobo Coker. And the cover artist.
There's no way you said that right.
It's Shobo Coker, and the variant cover artist is Shoff Coker. So you can check that out. And certainly last couple of ones that I will speak of from Oni Press, Dirtbag Rapture number 4 is out today. Also from Scout Comics, Impossible Jones number 3. If you're interested, Antarctic Press released Death by Life number 8 today. Also from Dynamite, Vampirella Bloodlust number 1 reprint edition is out today.
I hope he's getting that. I want that.
Yeah, from Cosmic Times, From Blood number 1 is out today. And last but not least, from Red 5, Carriers number 3 out today for new comic books. So anyway, you can pick up the majority of those comics.
I wonder if Alika's going to have any of those.
Or ask about them, courtesy of Maui Comics and Collectibles. You can, of course, check them out at Maui Comics and Collectibles in the heart of Wailuku Town. In Request Music, just ask for Alika. If you're interested in any of those comics, he will try and persuade you to order some.
He'll do his best.
He does do it well.
So he'll try to get you to buy Bad Idea books instead.
Yeah, whichever. Right, absolutely, 100%. Anyway. That does it for new comic books of the week. There was a lot of good comics that Todd knew nothing about, which I'm completely shocked.
I know a little bit about some of them, but I didn't want to interrupt you because that was the most you've ever talked about independent comic books.
Well, obviously you haven't been on because Kai knows that I've been doing comic book releases and I've been talking about them.
You'll be actually proud of him, Todd.
Yeah, I've been actually doing comic book releases
Proud's
and talking
a weird
about
word.
them. Yeah.
Well, I meant the independent stuff, not everything else.
Yeah.
I guess we're just a couple of proud boys, aren't we, Kai?
That's hilarious. That's okay. You don't have to. Anyway,
you could Urban Dictionary that one.
You don't even have Urban Dictionary. You can look up Proud Boys on the Southern Law Center.
Yeah, those talk about a bunch of racists. Southern Poverty Law Center is full of them. Anyway, don't get me started. Anyway, I do want to let you know, everybody. Of course, as of the break, there was a big thing that happened, and it was there during the holiday break. A big thing that happened. Not only has Spider-Man: No Way Home surpassed the box office for 2021, being the biggest grossing movie of 2021 and the biggest Sony movie of all time now in their history. So Spider-Man No Way Home is just trouncing the box office. Lots and lots of money being made. I don't know if I don't, you can't, it's crazy to think with everything that's going on now and how, we've been talking about how, we've said that COVID has done a lot of things to the theaters, but yet everybody is showing up to watch Spider-Man. And I think that the majority of theaters across the nation are pretty much back to like 100% capacity, because even here in the islands we are. So it's making money hand over fist. And I got to tell you, I mean, it's a good sign for theaters, because remember, I'm the guy that said I didn't think theaters were going to last through 2022. I thought that they were done for by this year. But
hey, we're only 5 days in.
It's true. It's true. It's so true.
And you know what the next big movie coming out is, right?
Which is
Morbius.
No, Morbius got delayed.
Well, I guess it's a matter of perspective, but the fourth sequel to Scream that almost nobody asked for.
Yeah, it's that is interesting that you mentioned that because it's coming out like January 14th
next
or
week.
something, isn't? Yeah,
next week.
Yeah, I'm very.
I'm rooting for it, but I also am just like.
No one asked for it, which is weird. I'm just hoping
it's better than 4.
Well, isn't this the first one without Wes?
Well, first one without Wes, but to me that didn't matter because I kind of felt like they should have taken it away from Wes after 3 in the first place. Because franchises like that in particular tend to benefit when you're going to do long-standing sequels with different directors and different points of view and different tones.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes the sequels stand out from the other films. When you have the same guy directing them all, unless there's something very unique storytelling-wise, it ends up being exactly what it is, or it's just more of the same. Ultimately, horror movies are always more of the same, but at the very least, you can have a different kind of tone to it, a different look to it, personality to it. So one thing the Friday the 13th movies did well, because everybody seems to have their favorite sequel, Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, that's why I think Rian Johnson should have done all the Star Wars sequels. And I think it would have,
or none of them.
It would have been more consistent, don't you think?
Or an even better idea, they just don't even make any.
That's true.
Because so far, the only thing that Disney's done that everybody likes on a quality level are the shows.
It's a good point, and that's only because the movies were so disappointing. That's the crazy part.
The movies were just desperate to be bigger than they could have imagined them to be, and they did the opposite. They did the exact same thing that DC does. They did not have a plan in advance.
Yeah.
Wait, are you talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
No, they actually planned those things.
Yeah, they did. Todd.
Kevin Feige knows exactly where. What?
You can't tell by watching them.
Oh, sure you can.
Shut up! You're such an idiot. You know what's funny is that it was interesting. I believe it was Simon Kinberg. There was a quote.
Wait. The Simon Kinberg, director of the Free
Gannon.
55.
Yes, Gannon. The Simon Kinberg,
the director of Dark Phoenix.
Yes, Gannon. Simon Kinberg.
Oh wait, that's it.
Yeah. Simon Kinberg was
like saying the Josh Trank, the director of Fantastic.
Get this, and this
but at least he had Chronicle, and he has that what was that? It was a Tom Hardy movie where I forget what he did. He did another monster movie after that almost nobody saw.
Yeah, he did the one about Al Capone called Capone.
That's what I was reaching for. Yeah.
What I was gonna say was I saw in an article recently, Simon Kinberg was credited saying that he trusts the X-Men franchise with Kevin Feige and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was like,
wasn't he involved with it back in the day, though?
I don't know. That's the weird part. I don't know. I don't remember.
Because Kevin Feige, before he became the Marvel guy, like the Marvel Studios guy, he was an associate producer on a lot of those earlier movies.
Yeah, right. So
I don't remember if he was attached to X-Men or not, but he might have been.
My question was, did anybody really care? Does anybody with all the X-Men that we got, and I'm not bad mouthing the X-Men's like Alika would if he was here. What I'm saying is that with the X-Men that we have, we can only improve upon what we've gotten, right? I mean, so for him to say that after all the success of the MCU that he trusts the X-Men with Kevin Feige is kind of ridiculous, don't you think?
No, what it is that he's trying to see if he can re-secure a job making X-Men movies again now that somebody else is doing it.
Oh, I get that. That is political positioning if I ever heard it.
You know what I would do if I was a writer, director, and I used to work on X-Men movies and I probably kind of knew Kevin Feige. I would definitely try to brown nose him, seeing as how eventually he's going to need somebody to work on X-Men movies again.
Good point.
But here's the thing.
I would treat him like an ugly girl. I'd just be like, get away from me, man.
You know what's funny is that Kevin Feige probably looks at it the opposite way entirely. Like, why would I hire the guy that did not do X-Men well to make these X-Men movies?
Todd, I got a question for you. Is there any way that you could, I know it's a computer. Is there any way that you can push the table closer to you at all? Because you sound so echoey. It's killing me.
I could try and see if I could.
Because I think people want to hear what you have to say, and I'd rather hear it up close than where you are.
I think you're wrong, Greg.
Fair enough. Anyway, now as we had mentioned, Morbius has been delayed yet again.
I've heard theories about that.
And Gannon, I wanted to go to you about that first. What is your assumption of the reason why it's getting pushed yet again? This is like the fourth or fifth time it's been pushed.
I think personally, I think the more practical reason, the more probably honestly truthful reason is that Sony's going to want to push that movie further back, considering No Way Home is still raking in tons of money. Like Matrix was supposed to be No Way Home's competition, and that tanked. There's really not much else that comes out comic book related that's going to really take No Way Home down a peg. It's going to just fall on its own.
Right.
So, you kind of want to push Morbius further back to give it a chance to make whatever money it could have made, which honestly, I don't think it really stood much of a chance. I've seen some things, but it's obviously more speculation than anything else. Although if you think about it, it would make sense is that if Sony were to try and get Andrew Garfield back to do Spider-Man, you would definitely use Morbius as the movie to do a post-credit scene with him.
Do you think it makes sense in the universe that we currently have that Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man would actually be a thing that could really happen? Do you think
100%? 100%. After Into the Spider-Verse and after this movie, and in particular with how much online chatter you see just for Andrew Garfield playing Spider-Man again, I think people would be 100% on board with having a franchise. I think people would be 100% on board with that. Plus, we already can wrap our heads around how it works.
Now, Andrew Garfield, as we know, was the standout performance in No Way Home. Do you think being it would be the third Spider-Man film for the Amazing Spider-Man series, do you think that people would know what is going on? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because it's been so long, right? And so do you think people are asking for it, and the majority of people that are asking for it are people that saw Andrew Garfield play Spider-Man. So do you think that the actual audience is there for Andrew Garfield Spider-Man to actually be theatrically successful? That's what I'm curious about.
I literally just answered that question.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that we're now growing up with kids who only know Tom Holland as Spider-Man, right? And they only know Tom Holland as Spider-Man because of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so, could this possibly
But Greg,
I don't know. What do you think?
Hello? But Greg.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Those same exact kids you're talking about just saw a movie with all three of them in it.
Good point, I guess. All right. I listen, I'm not poo-pooing it. I love Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield is my favorite. He is my favorite Spider-Man, and I think he was underrated for a long time. People used to crap on me when I said that, but I still think he was the most underrated Spider-Man. I think he was great. And I think if he does get a movie,
sucked, but he was great.
No, I will say that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was pretty bad, but I will say the Amazing Spider-Man 1 for me was near perfection. I think that movie was an A+ movie in my estimation.
Is pretty extreme.
I think that was the best. In my opinion, I think that is the second best Spider-Man movie ever made. Spider-Man 2 is still the best movie, and the Amazing Spider-Man the Amazing Spider-Man is the second best Spider-Man movie. And then, of course,
you're entitled to your opinion, even if it's wrong.
Shut your mouth. Well, I'm glad for Andrew Garfield. I mean, he's coming off of, it's interesting is that he just had a film on Netflix called Tick, Tick, Boom, which, of course, he did a standout performance. He's also in The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Is that movie about Limp Bizkit?
Yes. You don't want to. Yes. No, it's not. It's. I think that's Roland. I think that's a totally different.
Isn't that Limp Bizkit though, where they do that song where they go tick tick boom?
No, that's not them. I think isn't that like that Christian group?
I think I'm right.
You think so? Is it? I thought
think
Tick Tick
I'm
Boom
right.
wasn't that faux Christian group with that dude that was they did the what the heck is their names? I can't remember. No, not shut your mouth. I'm not even gonna go into it. I can't even remember their damn name.
Nickelback.
No, not Nickelback, you ding dong.
Disturbed.
Anyway. Green Day.
Smashing Pumpkins.
No, everybody shut your mouth. That's not true. Anyway, I think that I don't think they're not obviously they're not working on Morbius, right? So the delay is for Spider-Man to make more money. Do you think that they're trying to film scenes to connect it further with Garfield? Is that what you think?
I kind of doubt that only because I can't see them going in to reshoot anything to fix Morbius.
True.
But, you know, and if any of the speculation from the fans could end up holding true, because, again, there's no rumor of it actually happening. It's just people kind of guessing and kind of, you know, doing that mental picture of like, oh, 3 months is almost enough time to shoot something and throw it at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That's possible, yes. Could they do it? Yes. Would they choose this movie in particular to do that? Yes. Because most people are going to go to Morbius and probably just kind of go with crossed arms and be like, all right, entertain me. But if you were to whip a post-credit scene of Andrew Garfield at the end, all of a sudden you're going to have a lot more people showing up to that movie. So that's, again, it's more of a speculation thing versus like what's probably really the issue. But we'll have to wait and see in April, I guess.
You know what's when I mean, I'm the only guy that makes this observation. Every time I watch that trailer and I see Jared Leto in his full Morbius makeup, I swear he looks like a latter-day Michael Jackson. It's the every time I look at that Morbius makeup on his face, I think it's Michael Jackson.
That's not Michael Jackson?
That's what I'm saying. It looks just like Michael Jackson.
You know, it's funny you should bring that up because when I heard that Jared Leto was going to be in Morbius, I literally thought to myself, okay, they're not going to let him look like Morbius does in the comics at all because he's so egotistical and so image driven about what he looks like. But then I had to stop and think to myself, he made himself look like that fat Guido looking dude in that Gucci movie. So I was totally wrong there. But and I forget, like, this dude's pushing, or like he already is in his 50s, I think. Actually,
I think I think he's pushing 50. I think you're right the first time. I think he's pushing 50.
I mean, you know, the dude looks great, but you know, he's also a garbage human being too. So I mean, you know, we'll see how this Morbius movie works. I don't think it's going to at all, but we'll see.
All right. Listen, you make that assessment of him being a garbage human being. Have you met him, Gannon?
Huh?
Have you met him?
Have you seen videos and images of him acting like a messiah on an island with a bunch of people?
Yeah, that is true. I did
kind of a garbage thing to do if you're not an actual, you know.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Wait, what's the Nerd Watch then? I thought we were all acting like Todd.
None of us idolize each other at all.
That's true. Big shout out to Kathy who's in the chat. Kathy said, "How about maybe it's OTEP?" So I mean, hey. Big shout out to Kathy. Haven't heard from her in a while.
Isn't that the guy from The Mummy?
I think so. OTEP is from The Mummy. Yes, I believe so. Or isn't that? No. Hotep is the one from The Mummy.
I was totally right. Still.
Yeah. I think it's Hotep. Anyway,
Hotep. Isn't that a college in Texas?
That could be, and also that's who Elvis fights in the movie Bubba Hotep. Great movie, by the way.
Yeah, you get to see this lady massage Bruce Campbell's penis in that movie.
Hey, Elvis is not. Stop it. That's not.
It's really Elvis. Yes, I'm totally mistaken. You're right.
Oh, Kathy says OTEP. It's a metal band, scream metal. Oh, I'm surprised you didn't know that, Gannon.
I did know that. I was making fun of it.
Oh, you were mocking it. Gotcha. Okay,
I worked at Hot Topic back then. I know all those bands.
All right. You worked for? Oh my gosh, you worked for Hot Topic back.
But I'm also in my 40s now, so I forgot most of them.
Oh,
what happened?
You. No. You're
ashamed of me? What position are you in for this?
You worked at Hot Topic. Anyway, moving on.
Greg Turner looks down on me. That's interesting.
Yeah, for real. Anyway, I do want to get into more movies and stuff like that, but I thought I'd start off with something a little controversial, something that Todd and Gannon could sink their teeth into.
Oh, I swear to God, if you bring up Ghostbusters Afterlife right now, I'm going to find your house and punch you in the mouth.
First of all, I'll give you his address.
I'm going to be Ghostbusters Afterlife did come out digitally yesterday, so that's kind of exciting. We'll talk about that later.
Not to Todd Bernardi.
Well, there's a writer in comic books that I'd like you guys to talk about. Another writer in comic book who knows a thing or two about the publisher and their who knows another thing or two about DC and about their publishers and the characters and went into further detail. And I wanted to talk to you guys about this guy. So there's a guy out there who I will mention here momentarily, who knows a thing or two about DC Comics, knows a thing or two about their characters, and went into further detail as to why Superman is such a pure American hero who would never turn his back on his principles. In episode 83 of his Q&A series, Don't Get Triggered, Todd, writer Chuck Dixon devoted an entire video to the essence of comics' first superhero and one of the USA's biggest icons, and what his origins have to do with the experiences of Jewish American creators in the 1920s and during World War II. Dixon observed that those times weren't ideal for Jewish people in Europe or America, though life in the United States was better and freer compared to Germany at the time. Young first-generation Jews may have lived in cramped conditions with no heat in New York, for example, but they still had cohesion and relative safety within their community.
Learn how to paraphrase.
Hey, listen, relax. I want to make sure that I'm quoting him properly. I don't want to misquote him. I don't want to take him out of context.
He doesn't deserve your attention to detail on this.
Well, listen, it's important because he essentially he said, let me just give you the headline of it. Chuck Dixon basically says changing American icons like Superman and Captain America to fit modern times is a crime. That's what he's saying. So I will turn it over to you guys because of the experiences that Superman has held during the decades. What say you? And I will start. I can't believe this. Let's start with Todd Bernardi. What do you take? What do you believe, Todd Bernardi?
I think that, he's looking at it with rose-colored glasses. The 30s, the 20s and 30s, where the comic books were born, were not very great. Then Superman quickly transforms from superhero to American propaganda. Wartime World War II propaganda.
Sure, agreed.
We just have to look at those old Max Fleischer cartoons.
By the way, classics. Stop it! Don't make like you don't like those.
Well, the animation's fantastic, and it's probably some of the best animation we could ever watch. But I think that the stories are pretty clumsy, and you wouldn't go around saying Japo Tours, which was the title of one of the episodes.
That is true. I own all.
If you want to explore the golden age of Superman or the silver age of Superman or the bronze age of Superman is constantly being updated for modern times. So if you want to go, we could go back to the golden age and Superman was a flawed character then. We could go back to the silver age and Superman was still a flawed character, and then they kept giving him more and more powers during the Silver Age. And they gave him so many different storylines between the early 50s and the mid 80s that they had to completely redo his origin story. And that's when we got the Man of Steel miniseries, which was an update for modern times. Come on. And so that's usually the origin story that everybody is familiar with. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of based on the popularity of that garbage movie from 1978 by Richard Donner.
Whoa. Hey, do not.
I've ever seen in a movie. He's going to fly around Earth and then it's going to go backwards so he can save Lois Lane, which, in fact, he was told explicitly not to do by his father. He was like, you'll be a god to them, but don't ever change the course of their history. And not only did like just his own existence kind of change the course of their history, but he actually goes and physically does it in one of the worst filmed scenes I've ever been committed to celluloid. Are you out of your goddamn mind? I mean, if you want to talk about Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, let's go back and look at that piece of crap. I mean, this guy is rescuing kittens out of a tree while probably millions of people are, dying in the Middle East or, dying of starvation in Africa and China. Like, okay. I mean, what are you like? Let's talk about it. You want to look at it through the golden age with the rose-colored glasses? That's fine. But he's not, he was always a modern character and he was always changing faces throughout every decade that he was ever published. And that the fact that this guy is spouting this nonsense makes me question whether or not he's ever written a good comic to begin with.
How dare you? Chuck Dixon is a fantastic writer. Shut your mouth.
Name something he wrote.
He wrote The Incredible Hulk, and didn't he?
You're not sure.
No, he wrote some good stuff for The Incredible Hulk. I know that. Now, Gannon.
Oh, I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm just getting on the soapbox. Okay?
Go ahead.
Okay?
All right, go ahead.
And then we got what he's probably talking about is Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, which I think is actually an interesting take on it. It's a first contact story, and it plays up how alien Superman is.
I liked it. I liked it.
I think it's a good take. I think that anybody who wants him to be the big blue Boy Scout from nowhere, Kansas, is he never was that. He might have been something like that in the Richard Donner films, but we never got that in the comic books. And if we're talking about Golden Age Superman was a fully formed cosmopolitan newspaper writer. He was never really just this farm boy in Kansas. We never got that origin story in the early comics. They mentioned it on a page or two, but it wasn't something that they explored until the 80s and the 90s. And so, I just don't think that this guy really knows what he's talking about. The character's been different every decade that he's been published.
Well, let me kind of you were solely talking about Superman. Gannon, I'll go to you in a second. Chuck wanted to also reiterate the story behind Captain America's creation is quite similar. Like Superman, Cap is a righteous crusader created by two Jewish creators in Jack Kirby and Joe Simon that tackled the problems of the day, even if he couldn't do so for real. He is at Marvel and Superman is at DC, but they both fought for the powerless. Dixon explained that the big difference between the two was Cap was more directly involved in the war and was boldly seen punching Hitler in the face on the cover of an issue. Although that's true to a point, Superman would intervene in global politics occasionally. So, that is a big deal. Cap, that's a very famous comic book cover.
They did, and it was published a year before we were even in the war.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that that's not. A lot of people think that was World War II era, and it was, I guess, but America hadn't been drawn into the war for another year. That came out maybe even a year and a half, but over a year before. But that's what I guess what I'm trying to get at is that isn't that kind of the point that Captain America was more international and that Superman was kind of like your friendly neighborhood superhero kind of thing. And that Superman defended Metropolis. He was there to prevent catastrophes. When he was being published in the 40s and the 50s, he was just a strong guy that could leap really high. He couldn't fly. He could run really fast. He could lift things that were heavier than what a normal human could lift. but he couldn't, get it. He couldn't fly and catch a plane out of the sky until the Fleischer cartoons. And even in the Fleischer cartoons, he's just seen jumping, and then he jumps up and tries to catch the plane, and then lands, and then jumps back up and tries to stop the plane, and then lands. So he does that several times in smaller and smaller increments until he can just grab the plane,
right,
and then set it down. So even in those early incarnations of Superman, there's no sustained flight, like there was
right.
later.
But here's something that's interesting.
But the reason, what I'm saying to his point is
what
he developed all of these powers throughout the decades.
Right. Okay.
And so he always was being updated constantly. And
right.
So to say that he was this fully formed patriotic superhero is ridiculous. He wasn't. He was an alien from outer space.
Right. Now here's the thing, and this is where I think the confusion lies, is because when Dixon said that when he closed, he said these indelible American icons to fit the times is a crime. That's what he said, quote unquote. But I think that this is more important that they leave out until the end. He says when their quote unquote their values are timeless. So it's not that Superman doesn't need to change or he was fully formed, but the values that he holds should never change. Don't you think? Isn't that the point?
But that goes to my original point where he didn't really have any values to begin with.
Right, but that was given to him by his parents, right?
Yes. Now he didn't have the same values. I mean, if you want to talk about when he was published in 1939, he
right.
was a science fiction character in a strongman costume with a cape. And he was an alien from outer space. He didn't have. He fought for. He defended the weak against, I guess, the strong. But he also averted natural catastrophes, and he had a crush on that girl, and he was constantly saving her. So if he has the ability for sustained flight, and he has this incredible sense of hearing,
correct,
he would be saving Lois Lane instead of saving somebody else. So what does that say about a guy? You want to say like, oh well, it's okay to save the love of your life, but you're not going to save any of those children burning in an orphanage in South America?
Wait, can he do both? He's Superman.
I mean, you would think so, but he couldn't do it in the Richard Donner movie. He had to go back in time.
You know what, Todd? I you know what's so funny is I hold those movies near and dear to my heart.
But doesn't he save more than Lois by reversing time in the movie?
Exactly. That's what I was just going to get to.
It's not like he's only doing it for her. It's just that she's the final straw that broke the camel's back from him failing through the rest of that last sequence.
Right. Her death is what because he was going to listen to his dad.
Her death is what makes him break his dad's vow.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just about to say. That's exactly what the movie was.
All right, let's talk about that then. Like, what kind of values does this guy have that he can just break his vow to his father and try to actually interfere?
He's not a perfect character. Well, but the point is he's
not
a perfect character.
Chuck Dixon is saying that he's the perfect epitome of American patriotism, and we should all look at it.
That's not what he said.
Okay, but the point is,
he's only a robot.
Oh, you're a robot again.
Chuck Dixon is wrong.
Okay, all right, fair. Go ahead. Do it. Say that
Dixon
one more time,
wrong.
Gannon. Okay. What is your point?
Chuck Dixon is wrong.
Okay.
But he's wrong. That's all.
Is that it? What about the movie? Did you want to make a point?
We're going to keep talking about the movie because I thought we were going to talk about Superman as the character, not just the movie that we're going to argue about.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that goes to Chuck Dixon's argument of the fact that he had his value system is what's timeless, not necessarily the character himself, but the value system that he held is what was timeless.
Chuck Dixon, I mean, frankly, Chuck Dixon needs to just be quiet and accept the fact that these characters need to change and evolve if they're going to persevere. Because Todd's right. The reason why these characters have stuck around for so long is because they have been allowed to evolve. If we're going to stick to Superman as he was laid out back then, I don't know if you guys remember the classic cover of Action Comics number 58, where Superman is literally running a printing press where the papers coming out say slap a Jap. If that's what Superman was meant to be and to stick with, he wouldn't be around today. He had to evolve. He had to change. He had to move beyond. The fundamentals of the character are what's important. You can always, moralistically, the values can ultimately be the same, but you do have to make adjustments as things continue, because that's the only way this character is gonna. I mean, he's lasted for 80 years. But to a certain extent, these days he exists more as an image. I don't think people really know the character as well as they think they do, even if they, they'll tell you they do, but they don't. I mean, hardly. I mean, even I don't read the comics these days. Most of what people know about him comes from things that happened 30 years ago, and they just want him to be like that. But if you really get into the nitty gritty of what that means, they don't really know where any of this stuff came from. They don't really know how it's adjusted and evolved over time. So for Chuck Dixon to say that it needs to remain to this traditional minded idea of Superman, it's just not going to work, because the time that he exists in is not the time we exist in now. Our times are so cynical. They're so superficial. They're so face value. People are just, the world that we exist in now couldn't have Superman in it. Which is the point of what Zack Snyder's movies were, whether you love them or hate them. The point of his movies were, if Superman existed now, even if he was as good as he was meant to be as he was in the comics, the world would react to him so cynically. Some would hate him for what he is. Some would like him for what he is. And some people would be terrified of him because of what he could be. You know what I mean? So these things have to change. They have to evolve. And, Chuck Dixon is... He's trying to hold on to this thing that doesn't really exist the same way anymore, and it's like he's so resistant to change. And most people are resistant to change, but he of all people should know, for being someone that's worked in the industry as long as he has, the only way these characters are going to persevere is to evolve. When he was writing Nightwing, which is a run that I actually liked when he was writing it, he wasn't writing Nightwing the way he'd write like the design of Nightwing was not the Nightwing from when he first came around in the early 80s, where he looked more like a disco costume character. So, but should Nightwing look like that if it's about the tradition of the character and what the character should be like and look like and all these things? No, they have to evolve. That's the only way these characters are going to continue.
Right. And I think there's you make a good point about that, and I agree. Having Superman change with the times is not the problem, I don't think. What I think the issue comes into play is that, I guess when you I've read Superman comics. That was some of my favorites that I read, but when Superman was always something that when I read as a kid, his values are what you aspired to be. So whenever you look in the dark and dirty world of real life and the way that even Zack Snyder portrayed him, even in that world, I want to be that Superman, to have that ideal. You know what I mean? To be the ideal of what he was or what he stood for. That's what I wanted to do.
Whether you again.
Would that be wrong in some respects?
I don't think that's wrong, but I think that there's a lot of baggage that people project onto Superman. I don't think that Superman ever really possessed all of these qualities that people are ascribing to him.
Interesting.
I think that there are specific stories and specific creators that handled his character. And some of that stuff can be seen as canon. Some of it's not canon, but I mean, it's, I think that the audience wants to believe that that Superman shares their values. Right. And so I think that what Chuck Dixon is saying is Superman, there was an era of Superman Maybe it was back in the 50s or something, but Superman espoused these classic American values that I believe that I possess, and so that's what I'm trying to project onto the character. But whether he did or not, is arguable.
Are you saying so? I mean, essentially, I guess the kind of to wrap this up, would you say that essentially that Superman is not a hero for our time? I mean, in that.
What I would say, what I think that Superman is a hero for all time. I don't think that Superman. I think Superman's timeless. I think that he has a relationship with his creators and his audience, and I think that that's something that probably won't go away. I don't think that. I think that people are still going to. If you like those awful Richard Donner movies, then you can go watch those again. You know what I mean? There's something. Is Chuck Dixon bemoaning the fact that Superman isn't portrayed the way that he was back in the 50s? Well, I'm sorry, but he hasn't been portrayed that way in 60 years.
Right.
Then in 1960, Lois Lane turned into a black woman. Do you want Lois Lane to? Do you want to live in a metropolis that was obviously segregated? I mean, there wasn't a black person in those 40s and 50s comics, and if there would have been, it would have been a caricature. The way that the Spirit's sidekick was kind of a caricature. So, I mean, is that what he's telling us? Is that what the golden era of Superman was? I mean, is it racial segregation that we had back in the 50s? I don't think it's what's and
I think that's where you're taking it too far, because it's not what's around him, it's what he is, not necessarily the world around him was, right? It's not about the world that he was surrounded by. It was him. Right.
But it was about the world that he was surrounded by, because he had the opportunity to fix that kind of thing, and he never did. And you would think a person with near omnipotence could.
I guess that's a fair point.
For the quest for peace, he threw every nuclear weapon into the sun.
I agree. I mean, I agree with that as well. Hey, by the way, did you know that Gannon and Mark Pillow are friends on Facebook? I didn't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I kissed him once.
Interesting.
Who's Mark Pillow? Are you serious, Todd?
Greg, he was in one movie.
Still.
Oh, you mean? Are you talking about Nuclear Man?
Yes. Come on, Todd. Jeez Louise.
I was disappointed, by the way, that Brian Michael Bendis teased that he was going to bring Nuclear Man into the DC Comics movie.
And he never did. What a bastard!
Never did.
Wow, what a bastard. Anyway, listen, we got to get to talking a little bit about
Marvel
Cobra
Comics
Kai.
let him go.
Yeah, is that why? we gotta talk a little bit about. Thanks, Todd, for your insight. I really do appreciate it. I think that you're wrong, but. I do appreciate your input.
But do you really think that?
That's right. For everything critique.
Wait. Say that again, Gannon. You kind of cut out there. Say that one more time.
That's right, except for where he talks about Richard Donner movies being junk.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point as well.
No, I only do that to harass those golden age superhero fans like Chuck Dixon.
I have to admit that was quite a tirade on Richard Donner's Superman. I gotta admit I was not expecting that.
Well, I mean, it's just because I'm tired of fair weather Superman fans criticizing things like the Zack Snyder movies. I mean,
I like the Snyder films, and I think I love them. I like the Man of Steel. I didn't like the way he was portrayed in Batman v Superman, but I will say the director's cut did kind of clean that up for me a little bit.
Well, but I think that Chuck Dixon's critique of Superman really comes from the way that he was portrayed in the recent films, and also the fact that he's kind of a wrong.
All right. I
think in general, in general, Superman's value system has changed. It's changed over the decades. It's not one megalith that he wants to pretend that it is. It's not, and it never was. And there's some things that we were talking about the American way, and America is not perfect.
Right. What are you going to say, Gannon? Go ahead.
I said, aren't we at the end of the day still talking about a comic skater?
Hey, how dare you? I will not be gated by any comic creator. So stop.
But he is one, though. He's a comic skater.
Hey, first of all, there are fine people on both sides, right, Todd?
No, I'm not gonna agree with that at all.
You know what movie starts off saying there's heroes on both sides?
What?
It's your favorite movie, Greg.
Oh, is there? Which one? Grease 2?
Isn't it Revenge of the Sith that says there's heroes on both sides?
Is it? No way.
Yeah.
Is that in Revenge of the Sith?
In the title crawl, it starts off saying that there's heroes on both sides.
There you go. See, Todd? It's even in the Star Wars universe, Todd.
Whoa. I'm not saying I agree with you. I'm saying that
maybe you should.
I'm saying that you're in league with George Lucas and Donald Trump.
I'm in. All right. Moving on. It looks like just a real quick update. Of course, as you know, Invincible was a huge hit on Amazon Prime. It looks like that, according to Stephen Yun, he did an interview with Collider and said that he had recently talked to Robert Kirkman, and he thinks season 2 is going to be even better than season 1. And it looks like, although we won't be seeing it for quite some time.
Koreans aren't animating right now.
Yeah, so it says that they say hopefully the production on season 2 will go a lot smoother this time around. Regardless, they said he's looking forward to seeing how the next season turns out. So, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be a little while before we see season 2 of Invincible. If you are a fan.
Be wild. It'd be a wild concept just to see if you could do it, and it costs a lot of money. What if they just did season 1 animated, season 2 full on live action?
Ooh,
wouldn't that be wild? Like no one's ever tried to do something like that before.
The live action rights are at Paramount. I don't think that they've got them available to them.
I wonder if
I'm not saying like they should do it. I'm just saying, wouldn't that be wild?
That'd be nuts.
That would be pretty cool.
Like out of nowhere, it's live action. They don't even address the fact that it's switched format on you at all. They're just like, boom, here's season 2, and guess what? It's live action, fellas. Hang in there.
Wow.
It's the same voice actors doing all the characters.
Yeah, nothing changes. It's just live action.
That'd be quite a project to put together. That'd be kind of crazy.
The budget would skyrocket, but it'd be a lot of fun.
All right, so as we know, there were a couple premieres, of course, as I said before we get to them. There was Cobra Kai season 4. What?
We didn't talk about Matrix Erections yet.
No, I want to get to what I wanted.
My bad.
Yeah,
sorry.
I wanted to get to those. Don't worry. But what I wanted to talk about before we move on to those other projects is that the Batman got a brand new trailer over our holiday period, and we got a lot more Catwoman than I expected. After watching the trailer, I'm just assuming you guys watched it. After watching the trailer, what did you think? Are you even more excited for this new version of the Batman, or what we're thinking is Earth 2 Batman? I actually, after seeing this, I think that having Catwoman in it seems really cool. It seems like she is on the side of Batman, and she's going to be fighting against the Penguin and the Riddler. But I don't know. That all could change, of course. But I really think that Robert Pattinson's Batman is looking really good. So. Gannon, since you are our resident Batman aficionado, what say you?
This is actually the first of the 3 trailers now that we've seen where I was finally feeling a little bit more on board. As supportive as I've been of the idea of Robert Pattinson being Batman, I've also kind of just been a little jaded because we've had so many different Batman movies at this point. So I'm just kind of like, all right, fine. I'm just kind of that's like been my mood about it. Because, it's just like once we get into like a continuity with DC Comics, like they just pull the rug out from under you and be like, oh, by the way, we're going to start fresh with a whole new guy now. So it's just kind of, so I was kind of hoping to see more continuity stuff, even if they switched Affleck to somebody else. But the first trailer where I'm finally on board because you actually see a lot more of the world of Gotham, of what Gotham actually looks like, whereas the other trailers, like, they felt so much more claustrophobic. You don't really get a good sense of what Gotham City looks like in the other trailers. Not much of it anyway. This one, you get to see a whole lot more of it. So, and Zoe Kravitz, I knew from the beginning that she was going to make a great Catwoman, so I wasn't surprised to see that she could end up being one of the best Catwoman since Pfeiffer.
What's interesting to me, and I will say this every time, and even in this trailer, it did the same thing. Robert Pattinson, the way Matt Reeves has portrayed this Batman is so incredibly vicious that it's entirely captivating to find out. You don't know what his edge is. Like, you don't know where I mean, when I watch it, it seems like I don't know if this Batman is. I don't know if this Batman is the guy who is not gonna kill somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, but that was their point from the beginning, that this Batman, he's only in year 2, so he's probably still carrying around a lot of anger, and he's not refined yet. He hasn't really refined what he is and what he does and how he does it. So he's really just channeling a lot of that anger and angst that he has in himself outwardly. He's taking out things on people as opposed to actually protecting the city. You know what I mean? It seems like the way he fights seems more like that. Like, he's taking out his aggressions as opposed to actually protecting a city. Technically, you know what I mean? Like protecting the city is like his excuse to carry out his aggressions.
Can you? I mean, and here's another thing. Can you guys believe that it's 2 months away? It comes out in March.
Yeah,
I can't even believe it's coming out in March. That's incredible. I'm in complete and utter shock that it's coming out. I mean,
the even wilder thing is that in this 1 year alone, we're gonna have 3 different guys in Batman movies. 3 different Batman.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna have Michael Keaton. We're gonna have, of course, Robert Pattinson, and then who else? Affleck.
Yeah, Affleck's swan song. It's his swan song in Batman.
Yeah, that's right. Affleck
Rumor has it his Batman dies as like the final nail in the coffin, that he's not coming back, but then to also cement in stone that moving forward, Michael Keaton is the Bruce Wayne in the DC continuity movies moving forward, because he's going to be in the Batgirl movie. I don't think they have anything else planned with him, actually, now I think about it, but it seems to be the case that whenever we see Bruce Wayne in the continuity DC films, he's Bruce Wayne now. Right. Which basically means that Batman 1989 and Batman Returns were the first Zack Snyder Batman movies now, unfortunately.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Isn't that wild to think about? Basically,
wild.
Batman 89 are Zack Snyder's prequels now.
That is insane. I gotta say, I mean, it's really interesting to me that Michael Keaton literally is old man Bruce Wayne. He is the old man Batman. This is it. So I mean, fans have been wanting this for years. The idea of Michael Keaton coming back all these years later for like a Batman Beyond movie. It seems like they're going to kind of scratch that itch with the Batgirl movie instead, which to me is fine. If we don't do Batman Beyond at all, I would get behind, like, you know, Bruce Wayne mentoring Batgirl instead of Batman Beyond. I'd be fine with that, as a matter of fact. Although a lot of the fan chatter, where it seems to be mostly assumptions, saying that the new Justice League is to be built off of Batgirl, Wonder Woman, and Supergirl from the Flash movie. That seems awfully knee-jerk to just assume that. But, you know, let's say they do that. Whatever. It's fine. I got zero problem with that. I've had plenty of Superman movies already. I've had plenty of Batman movies already. It's about time we see some new characters. I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm saying this, Gannon. I've said this before, that I think that they needed to get away from Batman and Superman and go with Shazam and Aquaman and characters we haven't seen before. I actually kind of agree with you. For as much as you don't believe this, I think having Batgirl and Supergirl and them kind of lead it is not a bad thing.
Well, you see, but the funny thing about it is, this goes back to our earlier discussion, though, because everybody has these preconceived notions of what these characters are supposed to be like.
Sure.
That it's kind of coming to the point where the best way around that now is to not even have them anymore.
No,
Just pull these characters we haven't seen yet into movies and give them their first, because they've never had movies before anyway. So
agreed.
You take a look at the DC Comics movies that have been working. It's all the ones that people least likely thought would work. It's the Wonder Woman movie. It's the Aquaman movie. It's the Shazam movie. Birds of Prey, varying degrees. It's well liked, although it did make a lot of money. Even the Suicide Squad movie, it didn't really have its best chance, but it still did pretty well. So the stuff that's working with DC is, the Batman Superman movies are making money, but they're not very well beloved as the other films have been. So if the social currency is what you're after as well as the actual currency, your best bet is to pulling characters we have no built-in expectations for.
And remember, Matt Reeves, the guy who directed the new Batman coming in March, he argued with the studio to tear away from the DC cinematic universe. He wanted this Batman to have nothing to do with it. I mean, he argued for that. Have you
heard the Christopher Nolan story yet?
I have not. What is that?
I gotta tell you, I wish I could remember where I saw this article, but there was an article that came out that I read about. I guess one of the producers, I think, had a meeting with Christopher Nolan, I'm paraphrasing, but in essence, there were quote unquote not quote unquote, but like they're in paraphrasing, they were giving Christopher Nolan a heads up that these might be the better Batman movies now. That their goal is to make the Batman movies, these Batman movies, even better than his. And I was like, wow, that's awfully presumptuous.
Huh.
When your lead in after Dark Knight is the Ben Affleck movies that haven't been very well loved. Right. You really should be humble in this particular moment and just hope for the best of your stuff, not go and tell the guy that made the even better Batman movies than Burton and say, hey, we're going to make something even better than you did.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I wonder that's fascinating that they would do that.
If I can find the article again, I'll share it to you.
I think Matt Reeves, if there's anything and we've talked about it on the show, for as much problems the production problems that Matt Reeves has had with Robert Pattinson and the Batman film so far, for all the production issues and all the issues he had with Pattinson, this is shaping up to be one of the best Batman since Nolan's. So let's be fair about that. We haven't seen it yet, obviously.
That's what I was about to say. Based on what, though? The trailers don't really offer us a whole lot other than just tone and mood.
I mean, is it to be fair?
They don't really seem like there's anything new to what we've never seen before in a Batman movie. I mean,
that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if maybe that's the reason why we're getting in spring instead of summer. Is it because they know that it's not that good?
Do dates and seasons really matter anymore in film?
You would assume not. I agree with that.
It hasn't really been the case in a while now, because people are putting movies out in January. It used to be a dump month, and movies are making tons of money in January now.
It's true.
So these days, it doesn't really seem like it matters when you put these things out. Yeah, you want to put them out during the summer, but summer is so heavy competition. Like, why would you keep putting them out during the summer? Because you don't know when the last big hit's going to die off. So why not put it out on a time where there's not a lot coming out?
It's true. Deadpool and Black Panther's biggest success came in February, so that's a good point. So,
okay, but we do know why Black Panther came out in February, right?
Do
you want me to explain it to you, Greg? Because you seem like the type that would need to explain to you.
Because it's President's Day? Because I know it came around.
That's precisely why Black Panther came out during February. You're completely right.
I told you, Gannon. I told you. Anyway, in the chat, Richard says he would prefer a Batman Beyond film, which is kind of interesting. I kind of agree with that.
Well, they've been talking about like a old Batman since the '89 Batman. Like everybody, I remember talking to people, is pretty recently saying that they wanted their Batman to be Frank Miller's Dark Knight Return, and they wanted Batman '89 to be The Dark Knight Returns with Clint Eastwood.
Speaking of a guy who subverted Superman, there's a guy right there, Frank Miller. So in his book. Anyway, Richard L says we need a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle movie. Did you know that according to reports, the Blue Beetle movie is on schedule to start filming very soon? As a matter of fact, the guy who is playing Blue Beetle is the guy who is the lead kid in Cobra Kai. Zolo Maraduena. He is actually, according to a report that came out this week, he's actually tried on the Blue Beetle suit. So Zolo Maraduena.
I don't know who just made that last comment, but that's probably where his big disappointment's going to be, because that's not the Blue Beetle he's talking about.
Oh, really? Interesting. What do you know?
Yeah, it's new Blue Beetle. It's not the traditional old school one.
Oh, okay. I was unaware.
It's the new
myself.
one who's more like the new one is almost more like something between the Guyver and Spider-Man.
Oh, interesting. Well, I think the pick for him. I think if Zolo Maraduena, Miguel from Cobra Kai is any indication, he's really good in that show.
Greg, I'm proud of you for getting that name right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what it is. But I think he's a great kid. He's really great in Cobra Kai. He could be a great superhero. So good on him. And I hope Blue Beetle does well. I do think it'd be awesome to get a Booster Gold movie, to be fair, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So
Booster Gold with Nathan Fillion.
Stop doing that. We do that with everything. We're supposed to get Uncharted with Nathan Fillion. Never happened.
He's too old for Uncharted, but he could still be Booster Gold.
Yeah, that's a good point. But no one in Hollywood believes in Nathan Fillion other than James Gunn.
Oh, I don't know. Nathan Fillion has been consistently working since Firefly. I don't know if you could say that.
No. You misunderstand me. I agree that he has consistently been working, but they don't believe that he could bring in the bucks at the box office. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the last big movie he had was what? Where he was a lead in it was what, Slither?
Slither. I love Slither. That's such a great movie.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Serenity came out after Slither, and even that didn't really do well.
That's true, but that didn't do great either. So
great movie, though.
Yeah, great movie. Serenity's great. Slither is fantastic. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
James Gunn before it was James Gunn.
Yes, it was. A very young Elizabeth Banks was in that as well. So Slither. If you've never seen it, you should definitely watch it. Anyway, Ron Cataguy, I should have seen this earlier, but I didn't. But Ron Cataguy says Invincible is asking for artists at every position, according to Ron. Hey, Todd.
Whoa, did we just get an exclusive on our show?
Todd.
Yeah.
Invincible is asking for artists at every position, Todd Bernardi.
Do you know any, Todd?
You may want to put in your resume, Mr. Bernardi.
Oh, you were talking about him? Oh, never mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. What? He's a good artist. I think he'd do well on Invincible, don't you think, Todd?
Yeah.
You don't sound excited at all. Okay.
No, I think that's something to think about. But immediately Gannon kicked me in the nuts. So no.
Gannon, you're such a bastard.
What did he say? I didn't hear it. I didn't hear him because he's too far away from the damn mic.
He said he was going to say something, but you kicked him in the nuts instead, so he doesn't want to say anything.
Oh, don't take it that way, Todd. You should take it a lot worse.
Take it like a Texas chili bowl.
Anyway, as we know, we're gonna talk about. I think we're gonna talk about the Book of Boba Fett once it wraps up, because we all have to catch up, because I haven't watched it yet. So we're gonna kind of talk about that
first episode.
It's gonna be 6 episodes, I believe, long, or 8. I'm not too sure. But once it's over, we'll talk about it.
6.
We'll talk. Is it 6? Yeah. So I mean, we don't have to wait very long. So we'll talk about it in February. We'll do a roundup of what we thought of the Book of Boba Fett. But also, once again, Cobra Kai. Since not everybody has seen it, I do want everybody who has not seen it, watch it. Catch up. All I'm going to say about Cobra Kai season 4 is that this is the best season of Cobra Kai since the first season, in my opinion. I think that I love them all. I love them all. I love every single season of Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is exactly what the like I said, like I'm famous for saying, this is exactly what the Star Wars sequels should have been, but weren't. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I will say.
I completely agree that if you were to do Karate Kid now, it's everything you exactly should do.
Everything.
But I would disagree with you, because maybe it's just me, but this last season felt for some reason, maybe I just never noticed it till now, but for some reason, quite a little bit of it felt a little goofy to me, and almost after school special-ish in certain parts of this particular season.
I actually agree with you, but I think that was purposeful because now we're kind of moving from this whole tournament aspect into another realm altogether, and I think that that's kind of important.
I will say this though: they do one hugely gross misstep in this season where, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, with no setup and completely mischaracterizes the show out of nowhere, Carrie Underwood shows up.
I agree with you 100%. I tell you what,
which just reeked of like a celebrity like the show and called the producers up and asked them for a way to work her into the show.
That's exactly what happened. That, according to the creators, that is exactly
like
what happened.
You watch the show and you're like, well, I know exactly how she showed up, because it's so unnaturally shoved into the show that you're just kind of like, wow, somebody muscled their way into the show somehow.
Can I tell you what would have been a lot cooler, in my opinion? I mean, because I think that's the only misstep in that season in this season for me. What would have been a lot cooler is if they had gotten, and the way they had connected, like the lead singer of Survivor to one of the judges, and they got Survivor to come and do the moment of truth, and that way we could have seen. You
actually see Survivor in the movies for the first time ever.
Right. And then not only that, they're singing their song Moment of Truth, right? And of course, who would be marking out? It would be the sensei of Eagle Fang, right? It would be Johnny Lawrence.
But the thing that I would argue, and the thing that makes it even grosser in the narrative of the show is, do the characters know that song, or do we know that song? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, it's a good point, but he would know.
When we watch Karate Kid and we hear that song, we're the ones hearing that song. Are the characters hearing that song? They're not hearing what we're hearing because we're watching them.
No, right, but remember,
so there's that disconnect of like, oh wait, I thought only the audience knows this song attached to this movie. Apparently the characters do too, and Carrie Underwood's going to sing it for them, although nobody was singing it for them in the tournament in the original movie. So what the hell's happening here?
That's a good point, but I will say that's kind of the fun little cheese that gets put on top on this thing. Which I mean,
frankly, I would have liked it better if there was something set up earlier in the season where, you know, Johnny's training somebody and he's like, this is the kind of music I trained to, and it's some washed up crappy heavy metal band that he used to listen to in the 80s, and he like, oh, I pulled some strings to have, you know, for somebody to do the tournament, and it's one of the, you know, it's like the lead singer of one of those bands comes and does the song or something, you know, because that, at least that would fit into the narrative of the show and would make some kind of sense.
Yeah, Carrie Underwood was a total misstep. It totally
seems so forced that she shows up out of nowhere.
Agreed, 100%. And by the way, that's not a spoiler, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, because you won't be spoiled. It's not a.
As a matter of fact, you probably would rather we tell you that now.
Exactly, because it's kind of a.
It's so like you roll your eyes. You're just like, why? Yeah. Why is she here?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Agreed. I agree with you 100%. Anyway. Before we move on to the resurrections, and that'll be the last thing we go on to other than the releases, last big story I want you to know is that, as we know, Disney not only released Marvel's Black Widow in theaters, but they also released it on Disney Plus as Premier Access option on the same day. This ended up causing a major pirating issue, and it's being reported that the film, get this, was pirated by more than 20 million viewers, which translates to about $600 million worth of lost money. Okay.
How much of that was Scarlett Johansson supposed to get paid? Because now she has to go back and sue them again.
I don't know. According to Deadline, the news comes from Deadline, and they said, quote, following Black Widow, it was clear that day and date leads to a free fall at the box office in the subsequent weekend of a Marvel Cinematic Universe title. What's interesting about that's the exact opposite thing that happened to anything that is on HBO Max. If HBO Max premieres do well on HBO Max, it does well in the theater. As a matter of fact, get this: did you know that HBO considers Mortal Kombat the biggest reason why that the biggest reason why they had some kind of resurrection in the theaters, it was because of Mortal Kombat. It was because of Godzilla versus Kong. They say that those are two marquee movies that ended up on HBO Max and doing much better in the theaters than they would have expected. And they credit those movies, especially Mortal Kombat, for kind of giving them a boost.
Kind of unfair data to use, though, don't you think? Because when those movies came out, we were still in heavy-duty lockdown or just coming out of it. They were literally the only movies to see in the theater at the time.
No, and then that's very true. And that's what's fascinating about this is that HBO Max, or I believe Warner Brothers, they're very high on Mortal Kombat, especially because they consider that one of the biggest successes for them last year, because of what they did on HBO Max and what it did in theaters.
But also in comparison to the budget too, they didn't spend their ass out on that movie, you know.
True, and that's what's very funny. Now, according to getting back to the point, when you take all of this into account when it comes to this Marvel movie losing all of this $600 million, it seems, like you said, Gannon, it seems to inform why Scarlett Johansson initially filed a lawsuit against Disney. As an executive producer, she lost out on even more financial benefits from pirating. It's safe to say that the film would have made a lot more money at the box office had they released the film exclusively in theaters. So
wait. So I have a question then.
Yeah.
How angry do you think she is with Tom Holland right now?
Oh, she's pissed. She's pissed.
Do you think somehow in her mind she's thinking to herself like, my movie could have made that money too? Maybe we should have waited.
I think she is, but I don't think she realizes that she would never have made that kind of money.
Oh, there's no question if her movie came out now instead of then that it would have made even close to Spider-Man money.
Yeah, that's true.
Because her movie is just so bland. It's so bland. You know you're in big trouble when Florence Pugh steals the whole damn movie out from under you.
Yeah, she does, and Florence Pugh does. I completely agree with you.
Because what's the standout thing of the Black Widow movie? Florence Pugh's character and David Harbour. The two characters that aren't Black Widow.
Yep. And Florence Pugh ends up, of course, reprising that role in the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus as we speak.
Which goes back to my point. The two things that stand out in a movie about Black Widow are not Black Widow.
Right. Although, to be fair, Gannon, you and I were very high on Black Widow. We think it's a very good movie. Right?
Yeah, but also the only thing that stands out in the Spider-Man movie are other Spider-Men.
No, I disagree with that entirely. Because Tom Holland is absolutely fantastic in that movie. In your opinion, I think he was absolutely fantastic in that movie. And I've heard reviews where people say it's like his best performance in all of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, Todd, you don't think Tom Holland was good in the Spider-Man No Way Home?
You mean Doctor Strange 1.5?
Wow. Gosh, dang it.
I mean, he didn't have, I mean, this is Amazing Spider-Man 2.5 matched with Doctor Strange 1.5 to make Spider-Man 3. That's not a good movie. That's just fan service.
Hang on a second. This was to be fair to Tom Holland though. I mean, this was
We're not trying to be fair to Tom Holland. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has never been tried to be fair to Tom Holland. They've never given him a movie where it's just him.
But isn't that the point of the next one? Now that he has nobody, the next film is all about him.
We'll see, and then it'll be Fantastic Four mutants or somebody. Like, it's not going to be. It's never going to be just Tom Holland.
Okay,
I disagree with some things that Todd's saying here, but I do have a sneaking suspicion, Greg, that the next Spider-Man movie that we get, if Fantastic Four don't show up before then, we're gonna see him set up the Fantastic Four film.
Okay, may I make an argument for this? I've said this before. We're the same people that complained of why a long time ago. We complained that why don't these guys play in the same sandbox? And now, Todd, you're saying that you don't want them in the sandbox playing together now. I don't.
No, that's not. No.
Give me a compelling reason why they're together. Doctor Strange shows up, and even Gannon said this in his response to the film that he really doesn't. I mean, he's like, you want me to do this thing? Sure, no problem. I'm not even going to think about the repercussions. Oh, it didn't work? Okay, well, why don't you guys get on Google and Scooby-Doo this shit? Like, it's just like...
I agree with that.
I mean, there's so many different ways for
I agree
to get to the big climactic battle where the other Spider-Man steal the spotlight out from underneath him. So you have Tom Holland swinging. The big set piece in that is, if we're going to just judge the movie on action, you've got the end where he doesn't really matter because he's got two other Spider-Man there helping him. And then you've got him chasing Doctor Strange through the mirror universe dimension. And it's like, okay, well, that's not a Spider-Man movie. That's Spider-Man in a Doctor Strange movie.
Right. Todd, you're being a little ridiculous right now. Because for starters, the climactic battle, he leads them. The two established guys that have been there doing it longer, he leads them into battle. He tells them what they need to do. They're in their struggle because of him. The whole crux of the story is because of his bad decision making. And Doctor Strange, yes, he's just the mechanism by which it all has to function, but it's not a Doctor Strange movie just because he has a fight with Doctor Strange. That's a little absurd to say that.
Yeah,
it's not. I think that it's. Well, I just think that it's a bad movie with bad writing. But like you.
I completely agree with you in the sense that there's a lot of lazy writing just to give us all that fun stuff. I completely agree with you on that, but I do disagree that out of that you still get a pretty actually good Tom Holland Spider-Man story, because the things that shape him into what he's going to be is getting to see these other guys that have done it the same as he has.
The thing that is going to shape him into what he's going to be, you just summed up my position perfectly, because we didn't get to see any of that. You guys are judging this movie on the next movie.
Hey, hang on a second.
You didn't even let me finish my point, Todd. You didn't even let me finish my point before you decided to tell me I was wrong.
Yeah, Todd.
Sorry, Gannon.
No, it's okay. I'm already wrong. So go ahead and tell me what I'm wrong about.
Wait. Before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, joining us tonight on the show, a little late, better late than never. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Phormat and Franny. Franny and Phormat. Franny, how are you this evening, my dear?
Well, I am ovulating, so I'm doing well.
Fantastic.
Again?
Yeah, I do have time.
Man, maybe you should take a month off.
Are we trying for another youngling?
Well, you said late is better than never.
Oh, sorry. I totally misunderstood. That was my fault. That was my fault. Phormat, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm good. I too am ovulating.
Hey, Phormat, you showed up just in time for Todd to tell me I was wrong about a point I didn't finish.
Yeah, I kind of caught some of that.
Yeah, Todd.
Yeah, well, here, if I may,
finish your point, Gannon.
But
Gannon,
now I don't want to because you told me I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, Gannon. Let me formally apologize.
Someone messaged me about a Texas chili bowl.
Don't even go there.
No,
no, it's wrong.
Todd, you can tell Phormat what a Texas chili bowl is on camera. Go for it.
No, do not, Todd. I will kick you from the show.
Don't tell him what it is. Just tell him what it involves.
Do it in private chat, you dirty sons of guns.
Is it like all of
that
Texas?
Similar to a chili rainbow? Is that the same thing?
No, it's
okay. You know what? I'll tell you what it is, Phormat. It involves a telephone, like not a cell phone, like a telephone, Tabasco sauce, in somebody's butt.
Wow.
No, well. Anyway, listen, Todd.
I mean, in this day and age, it's good to stay in contact.
Okay, listen. Here's the thing. All right, there's something I want you to know. I actually agree with you about the storytelling and everybody being very, very generous with their reviews of Spider-Man No Way Home. I agree with you. I think that people conveniently showing up and then not being there during the film was a problem.
I feel targeted.
Yeah. I agree that Doctor Strange disappearing was a problem. I agree that the villains escaping and then disappearing and then coming back conveniently is a problem. I do think that there's a storytelling issue with that. But I will say, in fairness to Tom, I think this is Tom's most heartfelt performance as Peter Parker in any of his films. Don't you think that for crying out loud, he had to emote against Marissa Tomei. He had his Uncle Ben moment with Marissa Tomei, number one, and then he had to deal.
It does almost seem as though there is no Uncle Ben in his universe.
Right, exactly. That is, I think that's exactly. You're absolutely right, Gannon. I don't think there was a Uncle Ben in his universe. So I think that for as much as I think you're right, I think you're being vicious to the movie in a sense that you can't tell me that even though for all the errors that are in this film, you can't tell me that at least it wasn't fun and enjoyable. Don't you think? Hey, where did Franny go? She just left. Anyway, what do you think, Gannon?
She came and gone.
Gannon.
Here we go.
Hello?
Here we go. Gannon?
You all sound like robots right now.
What would you like to make your point, Gannon?
Huh?
Would you like to make your point, Gannon,
Hello?
To Todd while you have your chance?
Nah, I'm gonna be a brat about it.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. Todd, I think you're being.
Okay, no, you know what? I will do it. I will go into it.
Okay, go ahead.
Franny's back.
Get him.
No, because and I've said this to Todd, and I swear to God, he agreed with me when I had this discussion with him. They're kind of doing his origin in reverse, where all of the biggest things that he could possibly go through, he's already gone through them before he becomes the Spider-Man that he needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting with his Spider-Man is different from the other two. They get their own origin stories. They have their own very personal battles. They go through all of this alone.
Right.
So it's kind of good to see a Spider-Man that doesn't do it alone at first. He gets help almost every step of the way. He has Iron Man that gives him his suit. He has mentorship that he couldn't have expected to have ever had. He has all these people that help basically show him what he's capable of, right? And on top of it, he also gets to see that he's not the only one that does what he does and understands why he does what he does. He sees that not only is the world bigger than he is, but the universe is bigger than he is, and he gets to experience the multiverse as well as see beyond what the world that he knows in New York City, and he sees that he doesn't suffer alone. So That's actually really good stuff to see that we wouldn't have gotten to see in any other Spider-Man movie. And I think there's value in that, even if it's kind of sloppily written to get to that point. Because in the core sense of the character, you wouldn't have been able to see all of that without taking the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and then hope to get 20 movies out of him. You were never going to get that. So it's kind of good to see the Tom Holland Spider-Man gets to see the universe those two never have, and to get them to be part of that journey with him. Because at this point, Andrew Garfield is a Spider-Man that's aware that there could be a multiverse, but he probably never would have gotten to see it any other way. So you get to see him experience it. Then you get to see Tobey Maguire coming in as kind of like the grizzled vet version of Spider-Man, who's been around the block and has gone through a lot of this stuff, but now he's seeing a younger counterpart of himself who's gone beyond him. So it's like they all benefit from meeting each other. So in a way, even if you never see it again, you kind of get a sense that they're all going to go back to the worlds that they go in with a more enriched sense of themselves.
Right, and
they all go back to where they came from with a more enriched sense of themselves. Now they all know they're not alone in the struggles that they go through. They all know that they go through the same kind of things, but they also know that they're all kind of there for each other, at least in a spiritual sense, almost.
Oh yeah, I agree, and I will say this.
So
too.
That's good stuff, and it kind of sucks that Todd dismisses all that, because yes, even though the movie's sloppily written, yes, even though it's very fan servicey, all that stuff is also there.
Yeah. I think what I think Todd is missing is the fact that even for as much as Andrew Garfield kind of, was one of the standouts in this film, and as emo as his Peter Parker was when it came out, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has the saddest storyline going in as of now. It is sad. It is so dour. I mean, this is a Spider-Man who is literally alone, and we've never had that before, right? I mean, we've never felt that before. We always thought it was cool that he had a secret identity. Now we're kind of like bummed out that no one knows who he is now. Like nobody, literally no one.
It's even worse for him when you stop to think about it. Those two guys went through loss before they became Spider-Man. He was already Spider-Man and had gone through all this stuff. So his loss actually probably sank worse because he's gone through so much more. Right. There's almost no way that should have happened to him now. He saved the world, literally. He's been involved with all these superheroes.
Sorry, go ahead and finish.
No, well, it's just meaning to say is that it probably would have hurt him worse to have suffered something like that, considering he'd gone through so much more before that. It honestly probably never even occurred to him that could happen to him almost.
Because
he'd gone through so much more before that. Because
if you think about it, when you think that Uncle Ben in those universes were the catalyst for him being Spider-Man, what's interesting is that it's the opposite for Holland. Right. The vengeance aspect was never there. So the reason why he became Spider-Man was because of what happened to his uncle. Right. And so that's interesting play on the origin of Spider-Man literally in the middle of a Spider-Man run, which I think is actually kind of cool. And once again, I agree with Todd 100% that there's definitely some stuff that is sloppily written. I think that there are some
There's a lot of conveniences to get you through stuff.
Exactly. Can I look past those? I think I can. And ultimately, I think that this overall was a lot of fun. Not the best Spider-Man movie in any stretch, but I do think that this is Tom Holland's best performance as Peter Parker. I think this is Zendaya's best performance as MJ, and I think that this is Jacob Batalon's best performance as Ned. I think everybody has their best performance in a Spider-Man movie to date in this film, and even though the script is mediocre at best, I think I still had a lot of fun with it. So
let's go back to Todd's comment about Doctor Strange, though. He's saying that it's a Doctor Strange movie where Doctor Strange is only like 3 scenes, maybe 4 tops, but the Sorcerer Supreme gets beaten by a child with math.
Yeah,
but it's not the Sorcerer Supreme, though.
I didn't say it wasn't contrived. I think it's contrived, but I don't think that's. I think that Doctor Strange is heavily in the first half of this movie, comes in and during the climax, and there is really no, and then there is all the meatiness that is left over for Tom Holland is kind of this sort of hollow journey where he tries to help these villains from all other dimensions and ultimately fails and loses his aunt through it. And then he gets helped out by the other Spider-Man. So you got all that. That's
kind of understating, though, Todd. Don't you think the point of that was that he tried to help them, it didn't work, he lost his aunt in the process, and instead of going back to his base instinct, which was to kill the Green, which he still does try to do, granted, he still tries to do the right thing even though, which is a very big Spider-Man trait.
I just don't think that it makes sense. I mean, it just doesn't. There's no. He wants to forgive these villains that he's never met and try to help them. And
it doesn't sit well with him to send them back to their deaths.
Right. That's what doesn't sit well with him. That's what Spider-Man or Peter Parker would do.
Yeah,
right?
But I mean, shouldn't that moment mean more? I mean, you've got 2 very short moments where, Aunt May is with, Green Goblin is with Norman. And that could have been played a little bit longer. You've got a very
they do play that up they do play that up though, Todd, because just before Doctor Strange pushes the button, they have that moment where Peter has to decide if he's going to save them, and you're literally looking at all the villains looking like, oh my God, we're all about to die once he pushes that button, and Peter decides to save them all instead of letting this happen. Right. That's actually a pretty good moment.
But I'm saying, it's a pretty good moment. Why wasn't that a longer moment? Is what I'm saying.
How long did you need that scene to be?
Have Doctor Strange in there, and they had to figure out a contrived reason to get him to help Peter Parker, and then with absolutely no explanation whatsoever, they're just like, Doctor Strange basically throws his hands up and leaves. And
I'm curious. How long did that moment need to be?
And then Ned, he can do magic. Now that we don't have Doctor Strange, he's stuck in the thing. Now Ned can do magic, and then now Ned summons the wrong Peter Parkers. And so now we have the first half of a Doctor Strange movie, and we have the last half of Amazing Spider-Man 3. And you have tiny little bits for Tom Holland to kind of piece together in these sort of fan servicey type moments, but they're not really all that well written. And the movie falls apart in the middle for me, because it's like, I guess it's cool because we saw Doctor Strange, and then I guess it's cool because we saw the other Spider-Man. So I guess, the movie's fun and it works for me. Everybody's acting their ass off. But, what really is the glue that holds these things together? And it's not cohesive enough.
No, but that's what I'm saying, Todd. I think your criticisms are well founded. As a matter of fact, I was the guy that you were complimenting on my criticism or my review of Spider-Man No Way Home. I agree with you, but I think that with all of its faults, I think it's still a fun movie. I think it's enjoyable to watch.
It wasn't a fun movie, but bad movies are fun, and this is a bad movie.
You just seem. You know what I think the problem is, Todd? I think it's because you seem so angry with it. That's maybe the issue.
After Ghostbusters Afterlife, now when I watch a movie, whenever I can actually see the film that we're all supposed to be watching, like I now look at it differently. Like I always have two questions in mind. One, did I like this movie? And two, was it a good movie?
Right. Joel in the chat says if Todd directed Spider-Man No Way Home, it would have been 6 hours long.
Well, it would have been. I think it would have been an interesting. If I had to do a treatment for it, I would have done a Peter Parker story, let Tom Holland steal the show. He's a talented actor. He's a talented stunt performer, which we
agreed.
Did. And I think that they should have designed some interesting stunts for him to do. They should have designed, and they should have written a very interesting character for him to perform, instead of saying, well, we got to get all the other MCU stuff. And then wait, we're going to get the other Spider-Man at the end, and it's going to be amazing. And then people will totally forget about whether or not it was a really deep or meaningful movie to them.
It's interesting.
I'd like to think I proved it still was.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that's part of it. But I don't think that I think that the moments that you're pointing to, that those are good in the film, and I think that they should have been longer, or there should have been more of them with the actual cast that was hired by Marvel to act the story out for us.
I don't think Peter Parker's maturity, Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Spider-Man, would have matured properly without the intervention of the other two Spider-Men. And the reason why
can you think of a cornier way to, except for we've got this guy who says that he's magic once 15 minutes ago, that now he's opening up portals with Doctor Strange's ring.
No, that's the thing, Todd, is I agree with you. I didn't like the fact that he just knows that Ned knows how to use the sling ring. I agree.
It's like Ned knows how to use a sling ring, but the most powerful magician on Earth had to figure out a way to get himself off of the top of Mount Everest for 6 hours before he froze to death. And that was how he learned to use it. But let's just give it to this fucking guy. He'll be able to figure it out. And not only that, but we're not even going to show him figuring it out. We're just going to kind of slap it together for you. You guys will be okay with that, because we're going to have Andrew Garfield and we're going to have Peter Parker later, right?
I agree. That was sloppy.
You're going to have Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker too. So you're going to have all these Peter Parkers. You're not going to be worried about this kid that can't do magic, but he's just going to be able to do magic now.
Yeah, that is a critique that I had, and I agree with you 100%. I think that there are things that myself and probably Gannon and Phormat, we take notice of those things. We overlook them.
I've already said that the writing's lazy, but
it is.
I also think the character stuff shines through.
100%, and I think that's.
I haven't said anything because I haven't seen it.
you're still. I think you've seen it enough in this chat or in this show. I think.
I
will ultimately.
It sounds like an amazing film.
It is. It is. Listen, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Whatever you do, watch
Best
it with
picture
Todd.
Of the year.
Watch it with Todd. Whatever you do.
It doesn't sound like Todd would ever watch it again.
It's very true. So true. Anyway,
I really don't know why Todd still goes to comic book movies, to be honest.
I don't know either. I was just about to say. I don't know why he does. I don't get it.
It's like watching a masochist hurting themselves over and over again.
Yeah.
Like you know you're gonna hate it, but why do you keep doing it to yourself?
Yeah, it's like you're a masochist. It's straight up. Okay. Richard brings up a good point. It's not like Ned started throwing fireballs all over the place. Maybe is it possible that he could open
it all off screen though?
I mean,
he threw the fireballs off screen. So.
Is it possible that all he knew how to do was open a portal because he saw Strange do it? Maybe. Once again, you're right.
Okay,
Todd.
Greg.
Strange watched other magicians do it for 2 weeks. He still couldn't do it until he almost froze to death.
Greg, okay. I watched Enter the Dragon. It doesn't mean I can fight people all of a sudden.
No, but once again, you're making my point.
Everybody knows that summoning portals is a Filipino heritage thing.
Joel in the chat says, "Don't you know Filipinos know how to use magic?"
Yeah, see,
there it is. There it is. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Todd,
maybe I should stop talking trash about Spider-Man.
No, you are more than welcome to talk trash. And the funny thing is we agree with you. Me and Gannon especially agree with you. We think there are weaknesses in this film.
You know what I loved in that movie that not too many people really draw on, but after I've seen it 3 times, it's like. It's the thing that kind of stood out a little bit to me. That small little character things that I don't think most people really either pay attention to or notice. MJ throughout the film, like there was consistently a moment with MJ where Tom Holland, well, not Tom Holland, but Peter, well, I guess technically both, where Peter Parker fell in love with her even a little bit more. And then she would say something else and fell in love with a little bit more. It was all these things of like where he would come to her and say, "Oh, we have a problem," and she's like, "Oh, well, we'll work on it together. We'll just come to us next time." Still trying to figure it out yourself. And he would fall in love with her even a little bit more. It was such a small little subtle thing that I didn't really understand it to be foreshadowing, but it was foreshadowing because that's why he made that decision to make everybody forget. Yeah, because he knew she would be persistent and trying to find another way to fix it, and he knew deep down there was no other way to fix it.
Yeah,
but I thought that was
what I think is subtle is that you just mentioned you watched it 3 times. 3? Holy crap!
Well, I didn't hate it
once, and you've seen it 3 times.
Well, I didn't hate it like Todd did.
Yeah, it's a good point. Todd did hate it.
I like this movie. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't get me started. How many times I've seen Ghostbusters in front of Todd?
Oh my god!
Wait,
I can't
in front of Todd.
I cannot wait to hear his review of the Batman in March. This is going to be insane. I think it's going to be.
Oh man, the writing is perfect. There was enough screen time for everyone. I love these characters. Oh my goodness!
I thought it was weird that Jacob Batalon showed up and started making portals.
All right. Well, listen. We know we're just about out of here. I did promise Gannon before we did go.
You guys totally didn't get my joke. I'm so disappointed.
What? What did I miss? What did I say?
Why would Jacob Batalon show up in a Batman movie? Think about it.
No, we got that. We got it.
Because his name is Gannon. Because his name is Batalon.
Oh God. Okay. Now I get it. Thanks.
Oh, is that the joke? Oh my God.
He didn't get it. I got it, but it just wasn't that funny.
No, it wasn't funny. That was the point.
Now,
I mean,
before
the guy's name is Robert Battenbat, so
yeah,
I don't know.
that's true. Robert Pattinson. Yeah, we got it. I promised.
And he's cousins with Ned. That's why.
I promised Gannon we would talk about it because we didn't really get into it during the last show that we had before the
You guys
holidays.
gonna talk about West Side Story?
You know what, Franny? You saw that, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to see it.
You should have.
I shouldn't, or I should.
In you. Yeah.
Okay.
You know why you won't see it, Greg? You know why you won't see that movie? Because there's Puerto Ricans in it.
First of all, I'm a huge fan of the original with Natalie Wood.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say. First of all, I'm a big fan of Puerto Ricans.
I thought he was going to say that he's a huge Puerto Rican. Is what I thought he was going to say.
No. I want to know that this movie has not been received very well. It's not doing well at the box office. So what? I mean, let's talk a little bit about it there, Franny. Did you like West Side Story? Did you like it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I took my kid who hadn't seen the original because West Side Story is one of my favorite musicals. It's awesome. And we really enjoyed it, and he really enjoyed it. So that was kind of a win. He didn't love it necessarily, but he really enjoyed it enough to want to watch the original. So
can I ask you this? The biggest criticism that has been laid at the feet of this new version is that they decided not to include the subtitles for the portions that were
in Spanish.
Right, correct. So so number one, is that correct? And number two, was that an issue considering the fact that, it's very important to get the story across? Were you able to connect the dots as far as the story without the subtitles?
Yeah, so I can understand Spanish a little bit. My son totally doesn't. And he actually really appreciated that it was spoken in Spanish without subtitles.
Interesting.
He said it was one of the things that he liked about it because he felt it was more authentic. And that you could feel the expression and what they're doing, and their acting emoted what was going on.
That is and that's why if anybody is familiar with telenovelas like I am, if anybody watches films that are Latin in nature or made by Latin filmmakers, emoting is a huge process for Latin actors and Latin filmmakers.
Did you say elote?
No.
Elote?
No.
Yum.
I said emoting.
Oh, that's different.
Shut up. So
aren't those little goofy pictures you put in your texts?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
that's the Japanese version.
I would
face.
as a movie critic, I would
Smiley face elote.
I would be a little upset about the fact that there weren't subtitles so that I could understand what was happening. But once again, I'm not as critical about it. But I guess Franny, why do you think people have not watched the movie? Do you think it's because of that, or do you think that what do you think they're missing?
I didn't even know that it was in theaters. I didn't know that this thing was coming out. I was totally out of the loop. So I was really stoked when I saw it that it was still in theaters. I didn't know when it had showed, like if I was just catching it on the last day or what. So I mean, for me, it's just I didn't even know it was out. So again, like as soon as I found out, I bought tickets so that I could catch it. But I don't know why it's not doing as well. I mean, it didn't like change the story too much. It changed it just enough to kind of make it a little bit more like relevant and a little like it had like a freshness to it, I guess. The characters, I mean, no one can really replace like Rita Moreno as Anita, but I mean, it was still really fun and beautiful. And the singing was, I want to say that the music and singing was better than the original.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? But I don't think that they were as attractive as the original cast was. So,
wow.
But
how many Lin-Manuel Miranda songs were there?
There weren't any.
There weren't any. Weren't any. Thank God, there weren't any.
No, maybe it's and it's still like so. One of the things my son was saying about it is that for him the harder time was he doesn't. We watch some movies that take place in the 50s and whatnot, but like they really stuck true to the decade. Like they didn't change a lot of like the dialect or the linguistics of that time and era. So he said it felt kind of like that was kind of weird for him, I guess. But
so the slang,
like it would have,
slang.
Yeah, the slang and stuff. Like he didn't really understand it because he wasn't really around that sort of stuff. So I mean, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But if I had watched a movie and it was a period piece and they didn't speak like they were supposed to, that would have really irritated me. So
right, that would have taken you out of it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I enjoyed it. I think that if anyone's a fan of West Side Story, they should definitely check it out. I mean, Tony and Maria are still the most obnoxious people ever in any musical. Still hate them. They're still so annoying. You just realize how stupid love is and that it's overrated and it's definitely not worth fucking dying over.
Can you not believe in the fantasy, Franny? Come on.
My son, he was like, why did they do that? It didn't make any sense. I'm like, because when people are in love, they're the biggest dummies in the whole wide world. And that's the whole point.
It's so true. It's so true.
Like you don't think rationally when you're in love.
I agree. And that the funny thing is that it was interesting because they released it with subtitles overseas, right?
Okay.
Really?
All over. Yeah, they did. They did.
Oh, weird.
Which is interesting.
I didn't realize they did that.
And here's the other interesting thing, and Gannon may know more about this than I do. But when they originally cast this West Side Story, apparently Ansel Elgort, the main actor in the new West Side Story, was in kind of a little bit of trouble apparently, and that he was on the cancel list for something that he had done. Apparently, and
too much
so
rhythmic snapping.
I don't know, but apparently he was on the cancel list, so a lot of people weren't flocking to it or agreeing with the casting choice because he had done something that was, I guess, not appropriate at the during the whole time of the Me Too.
Was he
and
fighting
all this
Puerto
stuff.
Ricans?
No, he was not. I think it was more.
He
of
was sexy dance fighting.
Yeah. So I don't know.
We can only hope.
Yeah, so I don't know if Gannon knew anything about that, but I think that Ansel Elgort was
he was selling loose cigarettes to kindergartners.
Well, that's kind of a dick move, bro. Not cool. Not cool. I don't think that was the case.
I'm glad you liked it, Franny.
I don't think you should sell them to kids either.
Yeah, I was very like Phormat. I'm glad you enjoyed it too, because I was not looking forward to it because I'm such a huge fan of the original. So I really like it.
Yeah, they changed the character Doc to Valentina, and so Rita Moreno was in it, and she had a singing part in it. I don't want to ruin it, but I was really excited of like the little changes they made. And cool. Another comment my son made, which I do see like how the dynamics for how they portray the police officers in the original are different than how they do in this one. The other thing that was different too, or maybe that could have been improved, was that the Puerto Rican characters were actually pretty one-dimensional, and compared to the Jets, where you got really you kind of got a little bit more of a character arc where it was more circular, like in the end. But the Puerto Ricans, you didn't really get to know who they are, I guess. It kind of was missing.
That's surprising considering this is like a 2.5 hour movie from my.
Yeah, there's plenty of time.
Yeah, that's weird that Steven Spielberg wouldn't take the time to do that. That's weird.
Yeah, it definitely felt like you could have had more I don't know, more emotional backstory for them. I feel like in the original you do get a sense of like who they are and what their motivations are, but in this one it felt a little lost. But,
you know what the movie needed? It needed Spider-Man.
I needed a wizard who wasn't using his powers properly.
Oh man,
yeah, for sure.
Everyone knows that the world's most powerful wizard was David Bowie. So
you didn't stay for the post-credit scene where Jacob Batalon came through a portal into the West Side Story movie.
That's what I meant.
Everybody snapping at me.
I know.
And then brought characters from the Japanese version of West Side Story in.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Franny. On your recommendation, I will watch it.
I kind of want to watch it now. I always like when I think of West Side Story, I always think of school because that was the first place I seen it. Like they wheeled the cart in with the TV on it, and we watched it for for like a couple classes, and I was just like, I'm over this. I could be somewhere else.
That's where. Hey, listen. That's where one of the most famous songs come from that you hear in other movies 1,000 times. The "I Feel Pretty." Oh, so that's where that comes from. So
I know that.
Wait, finish that line, Greg.
I am not finishing that.
Finish it now.
No, I'm good. No, I'm not finishing.
Do it.
Shut
Give
up.
us your best Maria. Maybe we can just call you Mary.
I mean, everybody that watches the Nerd Watch knows that G gives the best Maria.
I do give.
He also gives the best chili rainbow.
Well, listen, I'm very much glad that you liked it. Now,
I just wanted to stop in and tell everybody that they should watch it.
Thank you, Franny. We love you dearly. We miss you. Thanks for dropping in all the time. Now,
yeah,
I'll send you invites every week.
Sure, whenever I feel like it.
Yeah, whenever you feel like it, and always give us updates about Cringe Cinema too. Whenever you're gonna do that.
Okay, love you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so Gannon.
Now finish the line, Greg.
No, no, not saying that. Anyway,
I found out what Elsa Edgar was in trouble for.
What was Ansel Elgort in trouble for?
Sexual assault accusations.
Oh, of course. Well, that's always good. Anyway, Ansel Elgort, of course, the guy in Baby Driver, which no one ever talks about. I love that show. I love that movie.
Except Phormat. Phormat's a big fan of that movie.
Phormat's a big. Me and Phormat are the only two people that actually like that movie.
I love that movie, but I don't think I'm allowed to like it anymore because of
because of Ansel Elgort. Yeah.
Well, that and
Kevin Spacey.
And Spacey's in it too.
Yeah, he's in it too. It's a good point. Now, Gannon.
And you know what? I still like 7, even though
I do too. I love 7. Gannon, I'm giving you the time now before we get out of here.
Snap! Here we go.
Let's talk about Matrix? Matrix Resurrections.
Oh, great. Here we go.
We've been on for 2 hours, so let's
Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah. So Gannon, go ahead and give us what you thought.
Here we go. Another 2 hours of content.
I know,
podcast content. Let's go.
I mean, Gannon, we could save it till next week unless you really want to talk about it tonight.
Get it off your chest, man.
What happened?
I said that we could.
I think you got lost in the Matrix just then.
What I said is that if we want to take more time, we can always do this next week, and then we can really sink our teeth into Resurrections.
This will be short. This one will be short.
Okay, go ahead. What did you think of Resurrections?
Don't go.
How about this?
Don't bother watching on HBO Max. Here's what you should do. If you're interested at all in Matrix Resurrections, just look for the countless videos on YouTube telling you how genius Matrix Resurrections is, and just take their word for it, because the movie certainly isn't as good as these people are talking about.
I got to tell you something.
It's not as smart as it's trying. It's not as smart of a movie as it's trying to imply that it is. Yeah. It's not a worthy sequel even on a superficial level, because all the things that you love about the original movies are just not there. It's all of a sudden leaning on the love story much more aggressively than any of the other films have. It's keeping characters that are beloved characters that you wouldn't mind seeing again, but using completely different actors, so you're completely detached from these characters because they're not the people that you remember. And on top of it all, I think, well, it could be the fault of COVID, granted, but all the action stuff, which is like a huge part of what made us love the original Matrix films, not just the Hong Kong choreography, but just the way the film, the fight sequences were shot, are completely gone. It's shot more like a John Wick film. So it's a lot closer quarter combat. It's a lot more claustrophobic sequences. And on top of it, it doesn't look like there's a lot of articulation in a lot of the fight sequences. I can't come up with a better word for it than that. It just kind of feels like they just rush into fights, and they're kind of dispensive really quickly. You kind of get a sense that the Lana Wachowski, after the last film, in all the years since anyway, lost interest in that. So Lana knew she had to have it there, but didn't put the same care into it as she would have when she made the originals.
Well, it felt like that what was really missing was the artistry of Yuen Woo-ping. So I agree with you 100% on that. I really felt that it was. I agree with you that the action sequences itself were weak. His powers seemed a little weak, considering all it felt like was a force push. You know, that's what it felt like.
And again, that could have been a byproduct of COVID. Because they did shoot this right in the beginning of lockdown, so maybe they did have a lot more to go for it than that. And at the end of the day, they're just like, you know what, we can't have too many people in close quarters with each other too much. So this is how fights are going to get finished throughout. So that's a possibility. We just don't know for sure.
I gotta say that I actually enjoyed it a lot more than you did. Surprisingly, I thought that the biggest problem with this movie is if it didn't know how to get from it didn't know how to get from the beginning to the end, and the middle was the one that was all screwed up. That's how it felt to me. And
all the best story that's in the movie is stuff that should have been its own movie.
Yes, agreed.
Because when it's everything explained to him about everything that's happened to him since he quote unquote supposedly died, sound like better movies than the one that we're stuck in.
Yeah, and the weird part is that I think one of the interesting things is that it goes into a lot of things other than the Matrix main movies. Like a lot of what's touched on, and Phormat has talked about it a lot, is it touches a lot on the Matrix Online. And if you don't know what's going on with that, then you aren't going to have any idea of what this movie's about.
Which also sucks, because even that by its own nature is pretty old too. So even the people that would have been deep into the lore of that are still pretty far removed from that in and of itself. So there's going to be the people that never played the game that don't know about that stuff. And there's people that did play the game that maybe not everybody remembers the crap that happened in the game.
Agreed. And so the biggest problem with this film is that I really thought that there was some really cool, ingenious ideas in this movie. No doubt. I really liked the message at the end. Ironically enough, the thing that you thought I would hate, Gannon, I actually liked.
You're gonna hate the most.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it rang really true on how
where Neo's the one, but also Trinity is also the one, even though that was never set up anywhere else.
I you know what I like, because it's and you guys might hate this analogy, but I love it because it's like marriage. It's like 1 + 1 = 1, and I really like that. Whether
I don't think the movie's that clever. I think you're putting that into the movie.
Well, no, but that's what I saw.
2, stupid.
I really enjoyed the fact that it was very much one could not exist without the other.
I guarantee you that's the last thing Lana Wachowski would want you to take from it is the traditional Christian value.
I think my explanation was better.
I thought it was cool. It was a super cool idea, and I thought it was a super cool thing to put in the film. I think Lana Wachowski's based, to me, in my honest opinion. But
based on what?
I thought my
all the Matrix movies,
all that was much better than what we were given.
I really thought that The Matrix Resurrections is not a very good movie. I agree with everybody 100% on that. I just feel that it's much better. It was I think the beginning was great, and I thought that the ending and the finale was great. I thought the middle was the worst part of it.
The Red Letter Media guys did their review of it, and they have it set in their minds that they had their suspicion is that Lana Wachowski made the movie to troll Warner Brothers into wanting another Matrix film.
Right.
Now, and the only reason they're basing that is off the fact that the movie almost refers to itself.
It does.
Right.
It does.
Which is great, except that that's not what the movie's about. It seems like that's what the movie's about at first, but the second he's pulled out of the Matrix, all of that crap didn't mean anything. It's just like cute, wink, wink, yada, 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 but that's not what the movie's actually about. Like, all of that is completely thrown in the trash the second he is pulled out of the Matrix, and then it just turns into traditional Matrix crap.
It's funny. It's funny that you bring that up, because Warner Brothers has announced like many times that they were going to move forward with a Matrix movie with the Wachowskis or not.
And I don't think they ever would have, to be honest with you, because if they really, really wanted to, we would have had a bunch of Matrix movies by now.
And that's a good point. I think Lana, I think the Wachowski, I think Lana didn't want to let go of the property. And to be fair to her, I think that's an appropriate response considering that's something that they created. So, I mean, for her to come back and do that was I would say appropriate, don't you think?
Appropriate in the sense of like she wanted to maintain a sense of authorship to the story, good or bad, which is fine. Right. Yeah. If it's something she created, by all means, she should have first dibs on telling a story, whether we like it or not.
Right.
But again, if this movie's supposed to be a commentary on reboots and restructured IPs and all these kinds of things, and like how these things are just kind of trust along in order to get the almighty dollar, then that's what the entire movie should have been like. Like, what does that mean when you pull it into the real world? Like, how do we contextualize that idea once we're pulled into the quote unquote real world after he's pulled out of the Matrix? What does that mean now? Those things could have been applied continuously throughout the movie, but all of that stuff gets thrown out. It's just cutesy set up, wink wink, hey, we're doing a Matrix movie and we're being clever about it, ha 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 ha. But then we're really not. We're just telling this romantic love story about like how two people, like one person can't be strong without another person. So
okay, can I ask? One, did you like this movie? And two, was this a good movie?
No and no.
Format.
No and no, because for me, like if we're gonna come back to the Matrix all these years later, then what the things that I'd like to think we all liked about it was how clever it was. Yes. We were never that invested in the love story between Neo and Trinity. It's just the trappings of a traditional film that's even there. Because frankly, Neo and Trinity, or Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, they didn't have great chemistry. Anybody who wants to argue with me about that is lying to themselves. They didn't have great chemistry.
I agree.
They borderline were like brother and sister in those movies.
Yeah, I agree.
They have better chemistry in this movie, but a lot of that comes from the fact that we haven't seen them together in God knows how long, and they've grown as actors independently of each other separately, and probably love to come back into this movie together after all these years. So that chemistry is based off of the nostalgia aspect of it, not really that they ever really had it in the first place. You know what I mean?
I only really had 2 issues with the movie. Overall, I really enjoyed it, but I'm probably in a position most people aren't in that I'm probably like one of 15 people that played Matrix Online.
Well, I played it. I know what you're talking about. I'm with you on that.
The first thing that I had an issue with was the fact that when Neo found out that Morpheus was gone, like he didn't like, oh, how'd he die? Like there was no, he just like, oh, you know what I mean? Like
I thought she explained it to
they
him.
were a lot closer. No, not really. Like she showed
him a statue of him.
Right.
I thought she said that he died during the war or whatever.
Yeah, but that's a lot. That's so vague for someone like Morpheus.
I agree.
You know
I agree. For somebody as pivotal as Morpheus, I agree with that.
I suppose.
Like, oh yeah, there was an explosion while he was checking the mail. So, so like what? There's no more detail than that.
The explosion happened nearby, and he had a heart attack. He didn't even die from the shelling.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing I had a problem with was it didn't feel like the Matrix was dangerous anymore.
You know, that was one of my criticisms as well.
Something happened, they just walk through a window and be like, "Oh, okay, we're safe."
Yeah, I agree with that.
What?
Well, even in the world of the Matrix, it just seemed like things were happening, and even Lana Wachowski probably. It's why I think Lana Wachowski was cynical about the movie in general. The whole point of all the humans in the Matrix is that they're all batteries, right? So anytime an agent takes over one of the humans that are in the world, we're under the assumption they're taking over a human being that's stuck in a pod.
Right.
So when in the original films, whenever they would fight the agents, they couldn't really kill them in the first place, granted, but there's still a sense of like, even if they could, there's an actual human being under that. In this movie, when they engage swarm mode, they're literally mowing them down with machine guns. Like the human hero characters, they're literally shooting them with machine guns. And I'm just like, wait a minute, these are like supposedly innocent people in the Matrix, and our hero characters are shooting them because they're getting attacked.
That's a lot of.
There was no
double A's
emotional
just
moment of them being
thrown out.
reluctant to fight them because they're just like, oh wait, we can't kill them. You know what I mean? And then the machines on top of it literally start throwing them out of buildings and throwing them in hundreds as human bombs. I'm just like, aren't these all batteries? Don't they need them? How badly do they want to stop Neo and Trinity that they're throwing away batteries over it?
I like that concept, though. That concept was really cool.
It was cool, but there should have been an emotional attachment to what that means. Like, you know what I mean? There was no hesitance of the humans to shoot them. There was no hesitance for the machines to let them go as human bombs for the sake of destroying Neo and Trinity. It was just the cynical, like, oh, we're just going to kill them all or whatever. There should have been like there should have been a moment where the machines literally like, we need to stop them one way or the other, even if we lose these batteries. But there was none of that. You didn't get a feeling of that.
Interesting. You know,
they
that's
were
a
just
good point.
tossing away batteries like it meant nothing to them at this point.
Well, it seemed like, and I guess maybe this is how to look at it. It seemed like that this was very much the two constants in this world were Trinity and Neo, right? And it felt like that they almost were very much the things that were powering the Matrix. Remember, they said that they couldn't get them too close together because of the unregulated power that they would have, right? So it almost felt like
that was really clearly defined, though, because on one hand they say they couldn't keep them too close together, and yet they put them in the exact same Matrix.
Right.
Whereas what would have been kind of clever is that we find out there's matrices within matrices, or there's independent matrices of each other. Like, you know, not everybody's in the exact same matrix.
Yeah. I think
so. Like, why would the machines even create an environment where they could even potentially find each other? Like, none of it makes sense the more you think about it.
And I think that ultimately that's where the muddled middle becomes an issue, because there were so many, and like Richard says, lots of interesting ideas, but nothing followed through or fleshed out. I agree with you.
And there was even more clever things you could have done with it. You know what I mean? Like I said, exactly. A matrix within a matrix. People were having that theory before the movie came out, and like Phormat said, it's just like the Matrix has no teeth, which part of it you want to chalk up to the idea like, oh, well, there was a truce anyway, so the machines aren't really trying to stop people from getting out because they have the option of coming out. Yeah, and now they're kind of friends with each other outside in the real world too. So that's why I let that part of it go. But, you know, even when they were trying to go after them, it just kind of felt like, you know, the Matrix, when it needed to engage, still had no teeth really.
Yeah, and I think that was my biggest problem or my biggest issue with when they jack in, right, to the Matrix as opposed to being...
You said jack in.
Yeah. You know, instead of jacking...
Well, then that means that they have to jack off when they leave, right?
Jack out, idiot. Stop it. Anyway, what I was saying is that I think
Jackie Chan right now, Todd.
That was one of the things that I think they missed the opportunity. It's 2021. There's a lot more cooler things that they could have done. I mean, with power sets and with abilities that they didn't do. There was so much potential that you know him flying and him being able to do the force push was not, you know, bullet time was cool in 1999, but in 2021 we
needed a Neo Ultra Instinct.
We needed something. I mean, this guy could.
Wait, are you trying to say that bullet time is lame now because Neil Patrick?
I'm not saying that it's lame. What I'm saying is that the Matrix has evolved from that, and the fact is that we literally could have had like these fight scenes could have been Street Fighter level fights, right? Literally. I mean, these things. I mean, you could have.
There's no single fight in the movie that's iconic. There's not a single fight in the movie that's iconic that's memorable that you're going to think about.
Right.
Like months, weeks, years after you've seen the movie. I can still vividly remember the fights, even the crappy sequels, because there's a lot of love and care into those sequences. You can just tell from watching the movie that the fights were just like an afterthought. Like Lana literally wrote the scene like, okay, and then they fight here. They're just like, okay, they just arbitrarily make a fight sequence out of the location that they're in.
Yeah.
There's nothing iconic about any of the fights. Like maybe the Neo and Morpheus one, but half of that's because they're just doing a riff on the original one.
If they had 5% of what any character does in the game Injustice, this would have been a cool ass movie. Right? This would have been awesome because it would have shown that the Matrix has evolved. They were able to jack into new abilities to kind of defeat the Analyst and the Matrix of itself. I just feel like it was and once again, this is an excuse to the core, and you guys may not like it, but I think I think Matrix Resurrections is a victim of the pandemic. And I think there was not a lot that they could do, and they had to shoot certain things. And I think it was without a doubt. I think it was
for sure. No sweaty cave rave.
Exactly. So I think everything was a victim of the pandemic, and I think that this movie once again is another one of those films. The reason why it wasn't as good as I don't think it was because Lana wanted to make a bad movie, so no one would want to make one again. I just think the pandemic really had them handcuffed.
I don't think the pandemic hurt it that much because you know what? I'd forgive a lot of stuff when it comes to the action if I actually gave a shit about the story.
Okay.
And I didn't. It's so low stakes when you really boil down what the movie actually is about. It's so low stakes because there's no threat of anything.
No, you're right.
It's
agree.
literally just he wants to pull his old girlfriend out, who's really not even in danger. Like she's not in any danger.
Yeah, no, she's not.
There's no threat. Like the machines aren't hurting anybody. Yeah, the machines are using them as batteries, and they have the option of coming out of it or not. But really, it's just to save Trinity. It's so low stakes. There's no threat.
Yeah, and I maybe that's what they were going for. That it wasn't a world event, but to be fair to Neo, maybe Trinity was his world. And that's the reason why he was doing what he was doing. I know that sounds
which is fine. But again, like there's no threat. Like the Matrix as it stands, where the position that it's in, we're still in truce territory for what we understand. As far as we understand, we're still in truce territory. So if you want to come out of the Matrix, you can. If you want to stay in, you stay in. There's still a truce involved. So him pulling her out of the Matrix or not, like what it would have been a real strong thing is if she actually did choose to stay in, and not that moment where she snaps out of it and says, "No, I'd rather come out and fight with Neo against these things that aren't really even trying to hurt us." Actually, now I think about it, but whatever, let's fight anyhow. Like it would have made the movie a lot more interesting if at the end of the day she chose to stay in, and then he's just a lone warrior now. I would have actually been like, I actually would have liked the movie a lot better for that because it would completely, the subversion of expectation thing. It would have been a Rian Johnson move. You spend this whole movie with him thinking that she wants to be free to find out she really doesn't. Almost to the sense, you could have even done it in the sense of like when he tries to come through and tell her what's going on and there's confusion, she kind of just tells him straight, "I was like, I know I'm in the Matrix. I want to stay. You're trying to tell me to leave. I'm sorry to tell you this. I've known for a long time. I just want to stay here. I've earned my right to just be plugged in and just enjoy life, even if it's this, because I did all my fighting when I was younger." That would have been interesting.
That actually would have been kind of cool. Yeah.
Because why do you want to keep fighting when you're all old and stuff during a time where there's supposed to be a truce anyway? It would have been actually kind of compelling that he comes out thinking he's supposed to come out, because that would even call into question what he's even still doing. He's already done his fighting.
What if they both decided to stay in the Matrix?
Like he chooses to go back in? Well, you could create a whole reason why like they need him again for some reason. And there's just this deep-seated loneliness thing of like all this stuff that he went through to dig her out, and turns out she just wanted to stay anyway. You know what I mean? That to me would have been a hell of a lot more interesting than just like their love is beyond everything, and it's going to be the key to saving us all. And and somehow she's even more powerful than she is on making things that the Matrix could do. I was like, we're doing this now.
To be fair, though, they are going to recreate the universe, right? That's what they're going to do together.
Why do they need to? Nothing's at risk. They don't have to. They don't need to recreate anything. Anybody that wants to be in the Matrix is fine. You get what I'm saying? Why is it important that they can recreate the Matrix? Because the Matrix, as far as being inside of it, nobody's enslaved now. They either choose to be in there or not. You don't have to be in there if you don't want to be. So the whole idea of them being able to change anything doesn't mean anything, because nobody doesn't want to be in there if they don't want to be in there.
We need an Animatrix Part 2.
Like if they had done it more of like
all the in-between stuff.
Well, yeah, and that would be great if we knew all that stuff into going into this movie.
Like if they just did an Animatrix series, like even on like Netflix or something, that covered all the events of Matrix Online, I think a lot more people would be on board.
I think my biggest problem, like I said, now
I don't need to be dismissive about the Matrix Online stuff. That's not what I'm saying when I'm about to say this, but like, if the movie cannot stand on its own without that outside stuff that you may or may not have done, then the movie suffers for it.
It does.
Oh no, yeah, and I agree, but you have to admit a lot of today's media has gone this way.
True.
Like you can't get through a movie without also reading the accompanying novel and
But what we're talking about is what's happening right now today, whereas Matrix Online came out how many years ago now? You know what I mean?
What I think is interesting.
If Matrix Online came out 2 years ago, then I'd be like, okay, cool, that's fine.
What I think ultimately though is that it almost feels as if the Matrix forgot that it was at the beginning of a tech revolution amongst the people, and it didn't realize by the time Resurrections came around that we were already deep in it, and it never felt that way. And
I actually thought from one of the trailers that they were going to go even crazier with it, in the sense that, like, because when we find to be Agent Smith later, when he's talking to Thomas, he's like going back into the Matrix. At that time, we didn't know they're talking about a video game. I literally thought for a split second that Lana Wachowski was just like, let's do this movie almost like Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where he's talking to Keanu Reeves making a Matrix film, and then it's more like a Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's like, well, what is real now? Because now we're pulled the Matrix back even further, talk about people we actually know in real life and what the Matrix meant to them creatively and as an actor or whatever. But then also, like, if they go back into it with that, you know what I mean? Like, I thought they're going to go that crazy with it.
That's kind of a cool idea.
Because I literally thought that's what they were doing when he says go back into the Matrix, and I was like, oh, they're going to go even weirder than I thought. It turns out they were just talking about a video game, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that there were so many missteps with this movie, but I think that there were some very compelling story beats that I want to watch it again. I will say that what the biggest problem was is that Neo and Trinity were the only interesting characters. I thought that Bugs was not. Unfortunately, she was not anywhere near as interesting. They didn't make her compelling. They didn't make the new Morpheus.
You have to admit, though, she's got a lot more personality than everyone else on her ship.
That's true. No, that's 100%.
Can you name anyone else on the ship? No.
No, you can't.
Well, I mean, to be fair, how well do we remember some of the people from the original crew of the first film?
Switch,
Tank, yeah,
Cypher,
what do we? Okay, but what do we really remember about those people other than what they looked like?
First of all, Joey Pants was in the movie.
That's still more than you get out of this crew.
Yeah, that is true. That's 100%. I agree with that.
But since you bring out Bugs, I did have a lingering question about the movie. In the very beginning of the movie, they set up that the events of the first film are happening right there in front of her.
Yeah.
He's watching what we think is Trinity, or maybe Trinity Proxy or whatever.
Right.
Basically going through the exact same moment of the first film, and she's watching it as a bystander.
Correct.
And we don't really have any context of what's happening or why. The implication seems to be that the events of the first film are playing out again as like a pre-program of what's happened before. Am I correct?
It seems like that she was
No. Am I correct in that? I'm not done with the point yet.
No,
I'm not done with the point yet.
I think you're right. Okay.
Well, the point that I'm getting at, though, is that, like, where did that go?
I think that's what I was going to try and tell you was, I think the whole point is that she was making an observation because she knew that she had to go in and pull them out again, or at least Neo out again, right?
What that moment, what was happening in front of her there had absolutely nothing to do with Thomas.
That's a good point too.
So how did that event link back to the rest of the movie?
It's a good
point.
Other
than recreating something we've seen from the first movie, that had absolutely nothing to do with what happened after that. It set up the idea of them having to recreate the past or reliving the past, I should say.
Didn't they have to find the door?
That moment had nothing to do with what happened after that.
Didn't they have to go through that whole sequence to find the door? Wasn't that the point?
But that had nothing to do with them finding Thomas, which is what the first film did. So what did that moment have anything to do with other than just having a cool scene to make us remember the first movie?
Damn it, Gannon, that does make sense.
See, that's literally the first thing that I had a problem with almost from the very beginning of the movie. Like that,
I didn't even think about that
because I thought that was going somewhere. I thought they were going to go somewhere, that they kept running into scenarios or moments that they've read about or knew about or whatever in the history of everything, and they were trying to figure out what these things were leading to and why they were happening. But you find out later that that's part of her crew, so you're just kind of like, oh well, they put her there, so they're to a certain extent they're recreating the moment, not reliving it.
Fascinating.
So,
I didn't even think about
therefore, what does any of that mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Interesting.
It's just to show it to us, the audience, but that had nothing to do with anything that happened later, and they didn't come back to it or build off of it. So once that happened, and I realized we weren't coming back to that idea, I was like, all right, so this movie's not going to come back together again then, because I thought that was interesting, and again, I kept waiting for them to come back to that point, and the movie never does. It plays up the whole. It plays up the whole him having created the game and then wanting to make the game again, but that has nothing to do with seeing that.
Yeah, the Matrix is happening, right, independent of what's going on.
It's gonna be like,
what?
Well, it happened off screen, so it doesn't count.
It's true. It's a good point.
Because as far as I understand it, like the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar, until those moments happened with Trinity, they didn't even know where Thomas was.
True.
So they have to play it through Trinity's timeline until they get to the point where they actually contact.
So, but then that means they have to recreate what Trinity did to get to Thomas, because that wasn't clear if that's what that was.
See, that's what I thought. That's what I was saying about the door. Them having to find the door to pull bugs. Bugs.
Then
through.
they don't. Don't they? But then they don't, do they? Because fake Morpheus finds her and pulls her into what we find out later is the Keymaker's little room, and then he tells her that he might have found Thomas, so they wouldn't have even found Thomas that way.
Damn! See, now you're making these. Now I want to watch Resurrections again.
See, I feel like that was the original plan to go through the timeline, like the original movie, but Morpheus stepped in and said, "I have a shortcut."
Right. He said I have a shortcut.
But it still doesn't make any damn sense, because he's at
that all happens off screen.
That's true. No, it does, and that's a good point. It does happen off screen. Doesn't it?
To be brutally honest, maybe I should just give the movie another chance and watch it again and see. Maybe I just missed something, but just from that first sit through, and again, I got really hung up on that one point because it seemed like they were setting something up with that. And it never felt like they got back to that idea.
I took that whole thing to mean like Bugs was supposed to represent the WB dragging Neo's corpse back into another Matrix feature.
By the way,
then you know what, Phormat? If that is the case and that is what they meant, then it is kind of genius that she's the rabbit and Bugs Bunny is the rabbit that's known as the mascot for Warner Brothers. So if that is the case, Phormat, if that absolutely 100% is the case, then that is kind of clever. I'm just not convinced that's why they did that.
Okay, now, I guess
but
the other
trust me, you know what, Phormat, though? After what you just said, I want to believe that that's the case. I just, for some reason, I'm just not convinced they were that clever about it this time.
You never know what they had in that water tower. That just,
And
the Animaniacs live in there. We know that.
And the other issue is that we're in the Matrix, right? Where are the Merovingian?
We saw him.
He's the screaming hobo.
Yeah, he's the whole. He's the dude in the beard that.
that's right.
Brings back all the Mongolian dudes with the spears.
That's right. Hits the mirror.
He's like,
that's right.
You ruined my life.
That's right. That's right. You ruined my life. That's right. Okay, fair enough.
And even that felt so arbitrary. Like, he doesn't mean anything to this story, so why is he even there? Like, why would Smith be like, oh, I'm gonna bring back some old friends, which is totally just like, it felt like let's just have a character we remember from the other things show up, even though we're not even looking at the real Agent Smith right now.
You know what would have been more interesting is if when the Merovingian shows up, like his entire crew is still with him, but they're all just disheveled. Like Persephone is like in rags.
Yeah, it's so weird. Is you would assume that the Matrix wouldn't have turned the Merovingian into that, right? They would have made him even better than he was.
That's my next question. Why is it just because he's a rogue program, he's homeless?
Right. That's
so silly. Like, it's so silly to like do the visual representation of an idea thing in a world where they're just programs. Like, a program is going to be homeless just because he's a rogue program. That's absolutely silly.
That I agree with that.
It's absolutely silly. A better way to
I have a feeling the computers are just that bitter.
Maybe, but in my mind, a better way to convey that idea is that you see him exactly as you remember seeing him, but he's a little glitchy. Like, he's an incomplete program. There's code. Cool. There's code missing. So he's standing there, but every now and again it'll be a little glitchy. Either you do that with literally just CG, or you just do it where like he's doing it as a performance, or like, he seems twitchy and stuff like that. Like just still existing. There's pieces of his code missing. So again, you either do it as performance or you do it as a CG effect. But either way, you know that there's something wrong with him between this movie and the last movie. That would have been enough.
I dig that.
Instead, we're just like, he's homeless because he's a rogue program. That's so silly. It's so dumb.
Yeah, it's too on the nose. I agree with you.
It's literally like, we need to make sure that the Machine Worlds doesn't want him around in the Matrix, so he looks like a homeless guy. It's so silly.
Right. And he's got the hood on and the
because wasn't he a rogue program to begin with?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He was a rogue program to begin with. So the idea that he's homeless now is just like, what?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the truce, because with the truce, everything has its own place, right? And with this new Matrix, there is no place even for rogue programs. So there's no way for them to benefit off of the Matrix.
See, and this
they did in previous iterations.
And this is the convolution of the story that didn't need to be there. They didn't need to make it that convoluted. I know they want people to talk about this the way we're talking about it, because that's exactly what they want. Mm-hmm. But
what I'm talking about is that it's not as clever as it seems to be suggesting it is. I'm not talking about the things they want to talk about.
All the stuff I'm coming up with is way more clever than.
You saying the thing about bugs and Warner Brothers is literally the most clever thing I've heard from anything, and this is going over countless. Like, nobody in all these YouTube videos where they're like, "This is what the Matrix really means." Not one of them came up with that. Bugs is the Warner Brothers representation thing, and I was like, that's actually more clever than any of these other guys came up with.
I agree. That is.
But then also, like, I mean, when you talk about convoluted, I was just like, Morpheus is Neo's recreation of Morpheus, but then also Agent Smith too somehow. But there is also Agent Smith. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, I was trying to wrap my head around, like, he's Morpheus and Agent Smith, but then also Agent Smith is still here too.
Yeah.
So is he both?
Yeah.
Like, he's supposed to be a mix of the two, but then we still have Smith too. So it's just like, why are you trying to do both? Like, I didn't understand that.
I took it as so Morpheus is Morpheus and the original Agent Smith, and then what's his Grobel or whatever his name is.
I can't remember it's Mark Groff, I think, is the actor's name. I couldn't remember his name.
Jonathan Groff.
Yeah, him. I took it as he's like the 2.0 Smith that came back for the sequel.
Damn.
I just wish he was a different character. He didn't have to be Smith, because the poor guy had to basically.
I totally agree. For sure.
Because the poor guy, the only thing he can do to try and convince you that he is the same Smith is to try to do the Smith inflection. So he's literally just doing an impression of Hugo Weaving in a few scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he just should have been a new character. Like, to be honest, the second that he kills Smith at the end of Revolutions, that's it. Like, I don't even understand why we need to bring Smith back. He didn't mean anything to the story except for that he also wants to get back at the Analyst. But he doesn't have to be. Like, Neo could have been the guy to beat him too.
Right. Well, I tell you what, all this Matrix talks makes me want to watch Matrix Resurrections again, and that could be a bit.
Yeah.
Actually, after Phormat breaking down what bugs may or may not have been, I kind of want to watch it, see if that makes the movie better.
Speaking of that, did you know that
I might watch it now and be like, you know what, Phormat just made this movie good. That's crazy.
Did you know that Jessica Henwick, the girl who played Bugs, did you know?
Colleen Wing, yes.
Iron
Fist's own
Jessica, yeah. Did you know she actually turned down a role in Shang-Chi because she did not want to disparage the good name of Iron Fist?
No, that's not why she did that at all.
Yeah,
that's not why she did that at all.
Oh, totally.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
She didn't want to be in Shang-Chi because
I read a direct quote from her where it said that she had to choose between Matrix and Marvel, and Marvel said, if you do Matrix, we're not going to have you do a Marvel movie, and she chose to work with Keanu Reeves. To be completely honest, though, that might have been the better move, because if she played a character in Shang-Chi as whoever that was going to be, which I'm assuming might have been the girlfriend part, then we wouldn't be able to have her come back as the female Iron Fist, which they are more than likely going to do now that we have Kingpin and Daredevil from Netflix.
That's a good point.
I got a sneaking suspicion now that they're trying to bring more female characters in, and I don't think they want to bring back the guy that was Iron Fist. Maybe they're going to be like, why don't we bring her back and she's Iron Fist?
Why not? I want to see Danny Rand again. Come on.
You're like the only guy.
Wow. All right. Fair.
I wouldn't mind seeing.
I've never heard anybody say anything positive about him in that show.
Rand Industries, and wasn't the Iron Fist.
Oh wow.
Oh, so he's like Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
He's like Lucius Fox and she's Iron Fist. That'd be cool.
Bankrolled the Defenders.
You know what's funny is that I've never even watched that fucking show, Iron Fist.
Really?
Never watched it. I watched the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, part of the. Yeah, and I just watched the Defenders after that. I just watched the Defenders as though it was the 3rd season of Daredevil.
Yeah.
Oh wow. All right. Interesting.
I just treated it like that because I was really dialed into Daredevil.
Did you watch the other shows, Gannon? Like
I think I watched part of Punisher season 1, and I know I watched a few episodes of Jessica Jones. Other than that, I didn't really go back to be honest.
So you didn't watch like the Luke Cage stuff or either.
Oh no, I take it back. I forgot about Luke Cage. I did watch a few episodes of Luke Cage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I dabbled in some of the other ones, but I really zeroed in on Daredevil because I'm a big fan of Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we know we're going to see him more, I'm hoping that we get to see him not just. It seems like when we see him, he's going to make appearances as a lawyer because he's going to be in the She-Hulk show as well.
I like the idea of that.
Yeah, quite frankly, if I never see him as Daredevil in the She-Hulk show, I'll be totally fine seeing him like representing a case against Jessica Walters. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. But anyway, Matrix Resurrections,
best movie ever.
You don't have to watch it. If you don't dig the Matrix, you don't have to watch it. Even if you dig the Matrix,
would have made Matrix Resurrections better, right?
What?
Jacob Batalon opens up a portal and then walks in.
Shut up.
Yeah, but he's got to be dressed the part. Like he's got the trench coat and the shades.
Yeah, like he's seen the Matrix movies and he wants to be in the Matrix movies and he finds a way to like do portals into movies like Last Action Hero style.
There you go.
And he dresses up like his version of what he thinks Matrix people looks like, and he just walks in.
Wow. Oh, man. All right. Anyway, listen, gents. I think it's time to wrap up. We've been doing this for 3
What are you talking about, man?
hours.
We still got time.
3 hours. 3 hours. Listen. Big shout out to everybody.
You didn't even read off the Blu-ray list.
We did not. There isn't anything huge coming out digitally this week.
It came out today. We picked that up.
Come on now.
Oh wait, I actually got two DVDs we can talk about right now. Antlers on Blu-ray, which even you recommend, although I have not seen it myself yet. But then also what came out streaming in November, got hard media release. Bruce Campbell's Black Friday.
That's right, Bruce Campbell's Black Friday, and digitally out yesterday was, of course,
Todd Bernardi's favorite movie,
Ghostbusters Afterlife. That's right.
Oh, dude, you should hear how much he loves that movie, dude.
That released digitally, so you guys can look forward to that as well. So that's kind of fun.
It's nice that they could finally talk about Egon in that movie, by the way. Because there's like all kinds of stuff coming about how they did it and stuff. And just like, wow, they must have been dying to talk about it for all this last 2 years.
Yeah, it's super cool though. You gotta admit. All right, gentlemen.
Like Andrew Garfield and No Way Home.
Oh, hey. There's gonna be another Amazing Spider-Man movie.
I still say that he should go on shows and be like, I have what? No, I don't know what you're talking about.
You think that would be appropriate? Just lie?
Well, I mean, he lied the entire time.
Good point. He did.
Straight to people's faces saying, nope, that wasn't me. That was Photoshop.
I gotta tell you, poor guy, by the way, because poor guy, because I mean, obviously he was under contract to not say anything, but at the same time, he must have been busting, knowing how awesome it was going to be.
Yeah,
like he knew that like people were going to love it when they saw it, and he must have been busting.
I bet. I just hope that he keeps up the facade, and like in all future interviews, when they ask him about No Way Home, he's just like, what?
I have been thinking, like, the movie's been out for a while. I'm surprised we haven't seen a talk show yet try to interview all three of those guys just to have a discussion about the movie now.
Yeah.
Oh, together? That would have been cool. That would be cool.
Because at this point, they're not keeping the secret anymore. Everybody knows. Even if they didn't see the movie, they know.
Yeah. It's a good
point. Case in point, I totally know. Yeah, there was a lot of interviews leading up to it where everybody was trying to get Tom Holland to spoil, but
yeah,
there's nothing now that the movie's out. It's weird.
Yeah. And Tobey Maguire hasn't been doing press for anything, so he's been sitting pretty not saying anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good point too. Well, gentlemen, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun.
It's been something.
Yeah, we will. We like I said earlier during the show, we are definitely thinking about moving the show, possibly
to New York City.
To New York City. To another night. We don't know when, but another night.
The night I go eat out.
Yeah, maybe a Monday. I'll see about it. Want to send a big shout out to
maybe
Hawaiian.
A Monday.
Mm-hmm, Monday night. Yeah. Monday night.
That's what he's planning.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
what if we did the show? Okay, I have a pitch, Greg. Let's do the show only on Jewish holidays.
All right. So just
Jewish holidays do you know?
There's so many of them. You could just.
I'm gonna steal a quote
from rock and hit them.
I'm gonna steal a quote from Alika Seiki. Google it.
Oh, got him. I don't know.
Side note: Alika's coming on.
Yeah.
Is he?
No, he's not.
I'm trying to make him come on.
No. Well, anyway, listen, gents. It's been real fun.
I want a comic book list.
We already did that. When we started.
Wow. So you're saying Alika's only good for the comic book list? Damn.
That's pretty much it.
He's good for hand stuff too.
He does have them long Asian fingers. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, gentlemen, we'll be back next week for another show. Want to send a big shout out to Hawaiian Mod, Reed Kishimoto. Reed wanted to say is Penis Gannon. I don't know. Richard and Joel and Todd and of course our good friend Ron Cataguy and everybody else that I happen to have missed. Kathy, of course. And everybody else for stopping by. We are out of time.
Oh, Kathy was here?
Kathy was here. Have a wonderful week, guys. We will be back next time. So, of course, for our good buddy Phormat.
Make sure to get that Texas Chili Bowl.
For Gannon, a.k.a. Penis. And Kai, I am G Money. Until next time, peace out. Much love. And most assuredly, always stay nerdy. And we'll see you back here on the Nerd Watch next time. Aloha.
So can we